This is the Between Shadow Society Part 6. So let's talk about a recap. I think I want to start with the hunters. And I think it might be helpful to sort of check in with the hunters a little bit more than we normally would. I like to do that periodically just to kind of make sure everything's kind of going as we want it to. And so taking a look at Sure Shot, right now, Sure Shot, you have a nose for it, which I believe we've decided that it is human flesh, I believe, is what we settled on. Is that what the it is?
Yeah, it was either blood or human flesh. It was unclear.
Something like that, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You have an impressive 3 advancements already, which is great. And you have 2 masks of the past marked, no masks of the future marked, and your moves are fastest gun in the west. Oh, you've been putting all your advancements in your stats, huh? Yeah.
Yeah.
And what do you have for personal quarters? Bowie knife. Oh, the broken locket. I'd love to see that come into play somehow. I think that'd be fun. So how are you feeling about the quickening? Like, because at some point, have we haven't had your scene yet where the other hunter has to keep you under control. Has that happened yet?
No, we've only gotten the 7 to 9 result or the 10+ result.
Okay, I think that'd be interesting to see. You have a lot of, well, actually you don't have any extra control over it. Like the reason why composure or presence is an option so that if the player wants to lean towards one or the other, they maybe take their weaker stat if they want to push it to failure or whatever. But you have the same score on both, so it doesn't really matter at this point. But I am curious though, are you envisioning a future where Sure Shot becomes a werewolf and the Hargrave House has to deal with him, or are you trying to avoid that?
I mean, if it happens, it happens, but it hasn't happened thus far. And if I get to another advancement, I might see if we can talk about making a custom move where he becomes a werewolf, but it's less threatening.
Oh, I see. Where you can control it a little bit or something. Yeah. That could be fun. I like that. You also have another potential threat that you can introduce. The American's only playbook that has 2, which is the Pinkerton as well. I think that's that's always a fun sort of change of pace threat because it's sort of the Pinkerton is kind of like a very mundane threat, which is kind of an interesting change of pace.
Right, and that triggers with the quickening, right?
No, that's just your mask of the future.
Okay.
That's just the moss-covered gate. Yeah, you just mark that and it happens.
Okay, cool.
Okay, let's talk about Pope. Pope, you have the sapphire and your hand is currently injured. You can't grip with one of your hands. That feels like something you might want to take care of at some point. You have 1 advancement, very close to your second one, however. And you have marked 1 mask of the past, 1 mask of the future. You have the employer, you have My Person Friday. That's brand new, right? You just took that.
That's the one I picked. I picked at the beginning of last session, and I got to employ it one time last session as well.
That's right, you did. Against Obert the Blade. Hargrave House Informals, one of which is you lost Silas Grin. However, you did gain the Limehouse Lurkers. That's not nothing. Yeah. Okay. So I mean, I think everything feels like pretty well on track with this character. I know that you are supposed to ask a question of Dr. Noble. We didn't do that last time. I think we might do that pretty early on in the next session or when we start. Dr. Noble, everything's looking pretty good for Dr. Noble. 2 advancements, 1 mark on the Mask of the Past. A couple of very interesting conditions. The Most Beloved, we've already seen how the Most Beloved affects the game, right? Like you've had a couple of instances where, I mean, basically both Figs Pigs and Hazel Beaumont were all up in your business, which I think is interesting. You got the pie, Obert targeted you specifically. Hazel Beaumont just showed up in your lab. The Most Beloved has an effect on how the threats behave. So, and I think we're seeing that, which is great. You also have the Angel of Limehouse, which I think is really interesting. I'd love to see how that comes out in the future. 1 mask of the past marked, and that's it. And that's it. Yeah, your Janus mask is due for some marks. I think we need to see what we can do about that. Right. You're making great progress on the child, though. You only have 1, 2, 3. You only have 5 more body parts to get before it's complete. So that's pretty wild. field medicine, beneath the skin, the resurrectionist, all that stuff seems pretty straightforward. Loads of personal quarters items if you want to push those and get some bonuses on your dice. How are you feeling so far?
Pretty good. I mean, when I do the personal quarters stuff, if I pull them out, then basically, does that add something or cancel out like a condition? Because I mean, I know, like,
the specific rule is if you can work the personal quarters item into the description of the action you're taking, like you can use it in your action, even not even like directly, it can even just be like recalling something from your personal quarters. If you can work it into your action, you get to roll with advantage, which means you get an extra die and you take the 2 highest of the 3. So it's a big advantage. If you are rolling at disadvantage because of a condition, say, you can basically cancel each other out. So you roll with regular dice. So
okay.
Let's talk about Miss Blakely. Miss Blakely, you have the devil and the wax doll.
I'm still kind of thinking on the wax doll because that threat isn't in play anymore.
It's not play anymore. Yeah, I wonder if it will come back like during the masterminds threat. I think that would be.
I think that's kind of what I'm associating the wax doll with now, or at least Blakely is this whole Theodore Brathwaite problem.
Yeah, I can push it too. I mean, I could make it a problem for you just because it's a condition. So I'll think about it. You get 2 advancements. You have also just 1 mark on the Janus mask and only 2 marks on the reflection as well. You're actually in really good shape.
I thought I had 3 and I just didn't mark the 3rd, but I'm going to have to listen back to
I think it's just 2, but I'm not sure. I don't know.
I could be misremembering.
Lots of moves. Giveth, taketh away. Love those. Those are really great fun. Oh, we should talk about Giveth a little bit. So group, there is an aspect of the Giveth move that is focused on the player characters. And it says, if another hunter debases themselves at Miss Blakely's feet, they take the condition worshiper. By doing so, you mark 1 XP. You get an XP just for doing it. And Miss Blakely scars the reflection. As long as you have the condition, you get a new dawn question that is always marked. And that question is, did you continue to perfect your worship of Miss Blakely? Miss Blakely gets to answer yes or no. If Miss Blakely says yes, Miss Blakely marks XP instead of you, but Miss Blakely gives you something from her personal quarters. So it's kind of it adds a really interesting wrinkle and dimension to the hunter relationship. I don't know if anyone's ready for that yet, but it is an option. It takes the story into quite a dark place, but I think it's a fun dark place to be in. So just think on it. Yeah, any other thoughts? We all good with anybody? Are we all good to go? Just want to check in a bit. Let's talk about the threats. I'm not going to do the full recaps on the threats because we just have the same 3. We have the Creature of Cremorne Gardens, the Spider Silk Seamstress, and Fig's Pigs. I will say that there are big moves going on with all 3 of them. Fig's Pigs, the Fig family came on really strong. Obert like straight up attacked Dr. Noble, right? And that was a brand new threat. They murdered one of the Hargrave House informals, and that is a fresh, live, active threat. You have 4 clues currently on the various questions. The Spider Silk Seamstress came on really strong. It dominated the whole last night phase, and we're going to be picking up the pieces from that immediately when we start. And the Creature of Cremorne Gardens, you're making good progress on that. You do still have to answer the threshold question, but one thing I want to point out about this one is tonight is when Theodora is having her party at Cremorne Gardens. So that's just something else to keep in mind. Speaking of Theodora, you're up to 7 mastermind clues, and that's where things stand. So let's go ahead and, if there's no more questions, let's get going. Normally what I would do is ask you what you all want to do during the day phase, but we're actually just going to roll straight into the day phase from last night. And the basic problem here, Pope, is you go to the front door, perhaps to pick up the paper or whatever. The main hall, the salon, is kind of like clearly like in disarray. The residents are currently flopped on couches and chairs, asleep. And you open up the front door, Pope, to find Miss Sylvia Belrose, who was dressed in spider silks last night, wrapped up, cocooned up in the same way that Sir Richard was described as being wrapped up, hanging from the threshold of the door, or from the little portico in front of the door. And I guess I will just ask you, Pope, what do you do?
I think my first reaction would be to, can I see her face or any? I
yes,
can
the
tell
face
who
is
it
exposed. Yeah, it's very like kind of like jaundiced, like still like beautiful in her way, but quite yellow.
Yeah, I think immediately my instinct is to cut her down and bring her inside. I don't want any patrolling policemen to come past and have any awkward questions that I may need to answer, or worse, that Dr. Noble may need to answer.
Let's talk about that, because there is a street sweeper on the square who is, as you are sort of like handling the body, you will see the street sweeper standing there, mouth dropped open, just holding his broom. A little ways away, maybe 40 or 50 paces away, but can clearly see that there's something unusual going on here. What do you do, Pope?
I think once I've brought the body inside and laid it in the hallway, I step outside onto the stoop and just kind of calmly but firmly look straight at the street sweeper, as if challenging him to, if you have anything to say or anything to ask me, speak up now.
Let's do the day move. What are you hoping to accomplish?
To intimidate him into just forgetting that he saw anything.
And what are you afraid is going to happen if you fail?
He will run straight to the police station.
Go ahead and roll with presence.
Okay, so that's going to be a straight 2d6. My presence is 0. I rolled a 1 and a 3. I rolled a 4.
He is in fact going to go straight to the police. That's going to cause nothing but trouble for Hargrave House. Do you wish to mark the Janus mask? I will remind you that on this particular threat, on the Spider Silk Seamstress, you do have the Mask of Glamour available if you don't want to mark your own, but you can mark your own as well.
So if I mark my own, it will be one of the future or past ones. Is that
your choice? Yeah. Well, the past is just the next one, and then the future, whichever you wish.
Do I know anything about this Mask of Glamour? What does that involve?
You don't.
Okay. Yeah, let's go for that. Why don't I mark the Mask of Glamour?
The Mask of Glamour is marked, and I will tell you what it does. Let's see. I don't remember that. Each hunter, all of you, must narrate a flashback to a time when you peered through the veil and glimpsed another world beyond this one. So something of a recurring theme. I will note that here for you, though. I'll want that during one of our next phases. You're going to succeed, but the complication is just going to be that he does ask a couple questions, right? He'll be like, so what's that all about? Strange sort of decoration, huh?
I'm sure I don't know exactly what's going on, but we'll get to the bottom of it. Don't you worry.
No, certainly. Shall I go get some help?
We're quite capable of dealing with it, thank you.
And he sort of like, tips his hat and continues sweeping away from the square, but he does look over his shoulder periodically. And that will wrap the scene. Everyone else, you're being roused. You are roused. You see a body laying in the foyer. The house is in some disarray. You're all in some disarray. You have no memory of what happened after this spider creature came down the stairs and wrapped Sylvia Belrose in the threads. Let's just pick up the scene with everyone. Role play.
Dr. Noble sees the wrapped, I'm assuming by now, corpse, and immediately wants to go and
Beneath the skin.
Beneath the skin, yes.
Yeah, that sounds good to me. Miss Blakely, what are you doing?
I think currently just trying to get my bearings. One moment it's fashion show and Lady Brathwaite is there and trying to convince me not to be the star of the show, which not normally my deal, but probably for the best.
What about you, Mr. Stevens?
I think Sure Shot wakes up in the morning and he's in like the pantry, and arrayed around him are like any weapons that he had on him, and pushed up against the door is anything that was in the room that could be moved. And he doesn't remember why or how this happened, but this isn't the first time.
This is how you found yourself.
He's found himself barricaded. So you hear like rustling and rumbling from in there as he like makes his way out.
How very American of you, Mr. Stevens. Good. Great.
And he sees the body and is like, huh. I think he's just watching Dr. Noble get to work.
Well, Dr. Noble, let's have your questions for Beneath the Skin. You get to ask 2 of the 3.
Well, definitely, how did this person die? Because if we didn't remember what happened, then that'll be the first question.
Sure. And what's your other question going to be?
I want to. She's pretty obsessed. She wants to get another body part, but I'm pretty sure people will notice.
Shall I take the liberty of conveying the body to your quarters, Mom? Where you can inspect it at your leisure.
Actually, that would be a perfect idea, Pope. Absolutely. I have more equipment and tools in my lab.
Very well.
We'll fast forward a little bit, and I'll tell you in the lab as you're looking at Miss Belrose's body. I'll answer your question in the basic sense. She was in fact poisoned in some way. You can tell by the discoloration of the skin and sort of blackening of the veins. But I also owe you a clue. And you will find clutched in Miss Belrose's left hand what appears to be a jar. This jar contains spider husks, bundled herbs, and what appears to be a patch of human skin. And that's your clue. I'll note it for you.
Thank you. And can I take a body part for the child?
Yes, you can. And in total safety, what would you like to take?
It's basically her face and skin that like definitely shows wear and tear, correct?
Yeah, I mean, as long as you act quickly, her body is preservable. To answer your question a little more precisely, she's decomposing rapidly.
Okay.
There's something about the process that is causing that to happen.
Okay, then she'll definitely gather the hair.
Very good. Yeah, the hair is good for good. As you handle the hair, give us a flashback to how it reminds you of the one you lost.
Dr. Noble will run her fingers through the hair of Ms. Belrose and then recall a few nights, different times, varying occasions of running her hands through silky soft hair just like this. Not necessarily the same color, but I mean, like from the way the lab light looks, I mean, like there's still a reminiscent gleam, and then just the feel and the touch and the texture just reminds her of him.
Good. Hargrave House, you have two very dangerous threats that are active right now. The Fig family, they do not play around, as we've seen already. Ms. Beaumont has your number. And Theodora is there behind all of it, at least behind Ms. Beaumont. Cremorne Gardens is less of an immediate threat, though we do wonder what Theodora's up to. So I guess at this point, I'd like to go around and just find out what you're all interested in doing for the rest of the day phase. I'll remind you, vulnerable move scenes are great. Dawn question scenes are great. Finding clues is really great. Let's go to Pope. Pope, what are you interested in doing?
Well, first and foremost, assisting Dr. Noble in whatever way she needs with dealing with the body, which might be an opportunity to ask her that question over. From then on, I think Pope is, the primary concern would be to figure out who these people were that turned up at Hargrave House last night, that breached the sanctity of the house.
You have some names, so yeah, you have some names to follow up on if you wish.
Yeah, so it might be worth putting out some feelers with the irregulars.
Informals, yes.
Informals, excuse me. Yeah,
that's a different TV show.
Yeah, let me see who would be.
Yeah, who are you thinking between this group?
Yeah, I kind of like the idea of Velma Fenwick at the governess.
Mm.
I wonder if it's possible she may have been a governess for one of these people's children at some point and have access to one of their households.
Possibly.
A good route of.
I'm going to make you roll this at disadvantage because of the sapphire condition. I think Theodora is working against you pretty actively at this point.
Mm-hmm. Especially because I have the condition of the sapphire.
That's what I mean. Yeah, it's the sapphire condition that's doing it. Go ahead and roll 3 dice and take the 2 lowest, plus presence.
Plus presence. My presence is 0, so that's not going to help me too much. Great. I rolled a 4 and 2 2s. So that's another 4.
That's a 4. Word reaches you that Velma Fenwicket recently went on her honeymoon, having gotten married, but she did not return. Her new young husband, grieving her, claiming foul play. Unless you wish to mark Janus Mask, that is the state of things.
Well, I've marked 1 Janus Mask already. I think it might be worth, once Pope hears that, following up with the new young husband who suspects foul play. He could be a promising lead.
Yeah, I think that's great. Could be. Okay, well, that's your sorted. That's your day sorted then, or it will be when you go to talk to him. Miss Blakely, what are you up to today?
I don't think Blakely knows very much about what's going on with Big's Pigs. Don't think she was around for basically any of it. So I think she is going to go visit Miss Beaumont, but I think she's probably going to ask Mr. Stevens to accompany her so that he could teach her a little bit about gun shooting if he's interested.
Talk about handgun maintenance on the way to that.
Like you want to learn how to shoot on the way there?
Maybe it's more like theoretical discussion.
Yeah.
That could probably happen. I think he probably will be like dropping you off or departing from there, because I think he really wants to see what's going on with this Figs Pigs business.
Yeah, I think Blakely just doesn't want to show up by herself. She wants to show up with somebody who looks like they could shoot her in the face if Miss Beaumont wants to start up a thing.
Sure.
Yeah. but doesn't need to stay.
So you're sharing a cab for part of the time then, sounds like.
Yeah. And the Creature of Cremorne Gardens, the party that's happening, is that tonight?
That's
or is
tonight. That's
okay, great.
The upcoming night phase. Yeah.
Okay, good. That's what I needed to know.
Okay, so let's have the scene in the cab then. The two of you are in the little handsome cab and trotting down the lane. And what are you doing? Sure shot. Since it's your advice, sounds like.
Well, I think right now, I don't know that she wants to know about gun shooting yet. So I want to have that moment. So I'm just currently picking my teeth with this obscenely large Bowie knife.
I think Miss Blakely is deliberately not watching you pick your teeth. Mr. Stevens, may I ask, how long did it take you to learn to shoot your weapons as well as you do?
Oh, and he like puts his knife away. It's like, well, I've been doing it for a long time. And I guess I keep getting better, but probably, I don't know, just more the number of shots I got to take than the length of time. You know, you put 1,000 bullets at a target, and all of a sudden you find yourself pretty good. So you could do that in a few days if you really had to.
Really? That does sound like it's a lot easier than I expected. I assumed it would be years of practice, but a few days sounds quite a lot more doable.
It's not like fencing or wrestling or something like that. These things, he pulls out one of the guns. These things, well, they're the great equalizer. That's what they say. God made man and Colt made them all equal. That's what they say.
I don't think I've heard that. Perhaps they don't say it here. Now, could you show me how that works? I don't quite understand. I know you press the button and the bullet comes out.
Something like that, I reckon. Sorry. I think he like starts to like twirl them and do tricks and things. And then like produces one that and empties it and hands it over to you and starts to demonstrate how the button works.
Oh, I see.
So
and you have to be okay.
Don't point it at me though. Point it at something and see, you pull this part back and then you squeeze on the button and try not to let it shake too much while you do that. And if you do that, it's going to go straight when it's loaded. It's going to be loud and it's going to shake, but it's going to go where you want it to go.
Fascinating.
Now,
how close do you have to be to do the kind of damage that one would expect a weapon like this could do?
Well, for a weapon like this, you don't have to be close at all, but you do got to be accurate and you got to make sure you don't shake. Here, and he like slides one of the window curtains away and then whips it up real quick and shoots out the window. And some distance up on a rooftop, there is a small metal post and it rings off of it. See, you can hit that with enough practice.
I think the driver of the cab is quite startled when you.
Yeah, the horses are probably upset.
Yeah, they're probably not like in great spirits either.
Yeah, and he sticks his head out. Hold them horses! Come on now.
Fortunately, you're almost to the shop, and if you have to walk the rest of the way, it's no big deal. Okay, good. So I think we've had the scene. Are any conditions getting cleared here? Or are we stumbling on clues? What's happening?
Well, let's see.
I don't feel like a condition got cleared, but
not really.
Yeah. But it is your scene, so you get to either stumble on a clue or invite Miss Blakely to ask you a question about the past.
Conditions we got. Is that that's the one condition I have right now? Is that?
Yeah, that's the only one.
Yeah, no, I don't think that clears. Let's let's stumble upon a clue.
All right, you get to define it, and it could be for any of the threats that you wish, but be thinking on it. Let's cut over to, well, Dr. Noble, what are you doing today? Once you're, I assume you're going to spend a good part of the day looking at the body, but after that.
Yes, after she tends to the child, putting the hair on, adding it to the collection, and then kind of whispering words of comfort to the child, like, because again, reminiscing is just kind of bringing back a lot of stuff, and just kind of talking to them like it's going to happen, and it's going to happen fairly soon. She asked Pope for her morning coffee, and then sees that he has a hand injury, and she's immediately going to be, how did that happen? Come here, come here. And then she takes him off to the side of her lab, where she has like all of her like first aid type of stuff, bandages, implements, that sort of thing.
Yeah, good. Let's just have that scene. Are you just tending to his hand?
Yeah. Well, imagine also too, like having some coffee while we're doing it as well, because she can't be without that coffee.
Indeed. Well, and I think just like I kind of feel like, honestly, I feel like anytime you and Pope are kind of sharing scene like this, regardless of device, it kind of feels like the move goes off, Yeah, it's good. You can have the scene if you wish, if there's something you want to say to each other, but
Pope just plays down the severity of the injury. It's really nothing, Mom. Part of the risks I take on board in providing you with protection. I've had worse.
I don't want to think about a time where you will have worse and I won't be there to help you. That's the only thing I'm concerned about. Let me worry about this so you don't get it infected and it will get better. I wish I could remember what happened last night. No, absolutely.
Yes, that was an odd business. What do you make of the body, Mom?
Well, poison. You can, and she like kind of refers to the bits of the body with the discolored skin and the veins, and it is decomposing badly. So once we're finished with this, she lets you know we definitely have to dispose of this fairly quickly. But look at this. And then she shows you the jar that she found. The spider husks, herbs, and skin, which dried up versions of what's in her flesh terrarium. It's all cool. What do you make of this?
I don't know that I make anything very much of it, Mom. Spider. It seems clear enough that she was perhaps poisoned by the spider creature we saw, but I remember nothing more.
But for why? Is this to be an indication of prey, food, a message?
I may be jumping to conclusions, Mom, but it seems that the fact that they left the body in a visible place outside our door was perhaps meant to send us some kind of message or serve as a warning.
If it was serving as a warning us against what exactly? Because if this person, thing, creature has been able to breach Hargrave House, we are all in danger. Then again, we knew that when we came to live here.
Indeed, danger seems to be something of a constant companion in this place.
I think we need to So many things coming at once, Pope. I'm not the one to order you around. It is your choice, always. I want you to remember that. But if I can make any request in case something happens to me, I would ask that you protect this child.
Of course, Mom. It goes without saying.
Good. Well, I think straightforwardly, no grip is probably cleared as a condition since your hand is being taken care of, Pope. I'm not sure that you got anything cleared, Dr. Noble, but however, Dr. Noble, you do get to get your bonus, though. Either stumble on a clue or invite Pope to question you about the past. Oh, actually, we still owe a question from the past, so maybe stumble on a clue. Yeah.
Since he's still going to work on that, I'm going to say stumble on another clue.
Okay, sounds good. It can be about any threat you wish, and you get to define it. Be thinking on it.
Okay.
Let's cut over to the other group. So what did you stumble on, Sure Shot?
I think we get kicked out of the cab. And as we come out of the cab onto the street, Miss Blakely steps down into like just at the edge of a puddle and then like stumbles back and Sure Shot looks down to see what it was about, and he sees the puddle, but floating in the puddle is a advertisement for a fascinating new creature. Come to the Wax Museum to see. But it's too obscured for us to make out exactly what it looks like.
So it's an advertisement for Madame Tussauds?
Yes. Advertising a new creature.
Very good. I assume this is for Creature of Cremorne Gardens, or is it possibly for? Okay, all right, good, very good, very good. That definitely sort of like kind of points in one particular direction with Cremorne Gardens. We'll see. Okay, so at this point, I guess, Sure Shot, are you going to go into Ms. Beaumont's shop with Miss Blakely, or are you just going to continue on to?
I will for a moment. I will for a moment, and then I'll excuse myself.
Sounds good. When you both step into Ms. Beaumont's shop, Ms. Beaumont is there. Her two assistants are not there, however. The ones that were there at the party last night, strange veiled twins. But Ms. Beaumont is there. She is very similar to how she looked last night, which is she's just layered in fabric, and it's almost like, it's like she's wearing like a gown, and then she's wearing like two shawls and a scarf, and then like a very, very thin veil, and she is attending to a number of customers like all at once. It's like she has it's like she's got multiple hands, but she doesn't, just the two. But she's very much like, running the room and saying, oh, yes, I think that would look lovely on you. Oh, that is a very, very striking color. My assistants and I, well, we can put out a dress, no time flat. Sir, if you need a suit for that affair tonight, fear not, we can have it done lickety split. And she's just kind of, running the room, and there are bolts of fabric on the wall. There are men and women sort of like looking at garments that are on display. I think we have a paint the scene here as well. Let me confirm that we do. We do. Oh no, we don't. We do have a paint the scene about is it Savile Row? Is that how it's pronounced? Yeah, so about Savile Row, which is, it's filled with vibrant, bustling storefronts. There are tailors sort of like laboring diligently, relentless displays of luxury and excess as you're sort of walking down the street to get to Ms. Beaumont's shop. I guess a question for just the two of you this time, however. Mr. Stevens and Miss Blakely. They say a perfect fit makes you feel like a new person. How do the wares on display tempt you to reinvent yourself, even assume a new identity?
I think there's kind of a running theme amongst many of the windows displaying the different outfits and fabrics. And one of those themes that for some reason is happening right now is adventure. You know, there's all the stories about people exploring different parts of the world and such. And you see fabrics from China and from India and all over the place, just different amazing things. And everything it kind of hints at, if you're not having an adventurous life, then you're not having a stylish life, then you're not living your best. And of course, living your best involves dressing your best. And that's definitely a big theme going on right now in these windows. Yeah.
It's a very interesting theme in the city right now, too, because you will learn, perhaps from chatter you overhear, Theodora's party at Cremorne Gardens is sort of a celebration of her storied past as the pirate queen of Barbuda. So that's worth noting. Sure shot?
As we're strolling down the lane, he turns to face one of these windows. They have the wares on display on like a mannequin, and it does that thing where the reflection doesn't show anything but his face in the body. And it's one of those like safari get-ups like they used to have that's all khaki. And Sure Shot kind of like cocks his head like, could just go off into the jungle somewhere and then no one would really be bothered by him.
Yeah, you might fit right in. You get into Ms. Beaumont's shop. It's as I've described. And Ms. Beaumont will see the two of you enter, and there's a glint of recognition at first, and then a warm smile. And she says, Miss Blakely, Mr. Stevens, I'm surprised to see you here today. I thought you might be a little spent from last night's festivities.
Well, it seems like you underestimate us, Miss Beaumont. We would like to have a word with you in private, if you don't mind. And she's actually directing most of that to the people in the store.
I think that I think people are kind of maybe gathering their things and sort of like giving you some space. You know, there might be one like last looky-loo still kind of like looking through the fabric wall, you know.
Sure Shot like takes a tour around the room as if he's looking, but really he's just like imposing his big frame and firearms around the rooms.
Miss Blakely looks at this last dahlia and just clears her throat. Like,
good. Ms. Beaumont says, well, I guess business is done for the day then. Although
Sure Shot turns the little sign to out to lunch.
Ms. Beaumont says, I'm a little disappointed, however, that Dr. Noble didn't come with you. I would love to dress her someday.
yes, but we have an idea that perhaps you dressing people might not be the best.
She seems
might not be in their best interest.
Dr. Noble is in fact very busy with the last one that you dressed and left on our doorstep.
She says, well, let's go to my workshop, shall we? And she goes deeper into the store towards the back.
Likely just storms after her.
Good. We'll come back to that. So, Pope, once your hand is fixed, what are you up to?
I think.
Also, are you going to ask your question? Actually, we should.
That's what I'm just.
Let's continue with that.
Yeah,
scene.
that's what I'm just.
Yeah, you get your question, and also I'm owed a clue as well.
As Pope's turning to leave after, examining flexing his hand after Dr. Noble's been attending to it, he looks toward where the body lay and where the hair has been removed, and turns to Dr. Noble and says, the hair, I feel like I noticed some kind of resemblance there. Is that why you took it, Doctor?
You remember correctly. I'm sure you saw how much it reminded me of Michael's hair. I mean, not that you would notice necessarily under the hat, but he's always described of sporty figure when he actually came out of his own studies. And it was always wonderful when he, the expression is, let his hair down. And I'm very glad to have it. And she looks directly at you and goes, not long now. Just a few more to go.
Indeed, Mum. I will keep my eyes peeled for any further supplies that may come our way.
As always, appreciated, Pope.
Let's talk about your. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Think nothing of it, Mom.
Let's talk about that clue. What did you find, Dr. Noble? And for which threat?
What was Belrose? I mean, was she someone who
Just a socialite,
just
a
a
young,
socialite?
like a dilettante,
She actually has, I think from further examination of the body, I think on her person, she has an invite to this showing of the new creature that is going to be at
Oh,
Madame
interesting.
Tussauds.
Very good. So that's for Creature of Cremorne Gardens then.
Yes.
Very good. We'll say it's a gala. Very good. Very, very interesting. See how that's going to play out. So let's pick up again with the shop briefly. Sure shot. They go deeper into the shop. You can follow behind, but you do have kind of the run of the place if you want to check it out before you go any further.
Yeah. I think Miss Blakely can handle herself. So I'll have a turnabout the room. And if I don't find anything threatening, I might move on.
You can do the information move just as a sort of general looking around sort of thing, with just reason, I guess.
Okay. So I got an 8.
8. You're taking a look around and you see see what you find. Okay. You're taking a look around and you see that all of the garments, you'll notice, all of the garments have sort of like in a obvious enough place where you notice it, but not like so obvious that it stands out or ruins the look of the garment. But all the garments have on them sewn a very, very intricate pattern. It's like kind of one of those Celtic knot type designs, but it's been sewn with this silver thread. It's almost like her mark, but you can note the pattern.
Okay.
There's a complication, which quite simply is that I think that the pattern starts to settle in your mind a little bit and overtake your thoughts a little bit. You can take that as a condition. We'll call it the pattern. I'll note the clue. I'm curious, as you walk down the streets to continue on to the pie shop, how does the patterns start to, thinking about it, dwelling on it, how does it start to change how you experience London? As you're going from this very, very beautiful district to the considerably less fancy Shoreditch.
I think I just see it everywhere. Like the ironworks on fences and lampposts seems to twist into it. You look at bricks that were once so neat and orderly, but then they have the pattern.
Is this like literal, or your mind is doing this?
This is how I perceive it.
Okay.
I don't think it's actually there. Like, I don't think there's actually brickwork with this pattern in it.
Yeah.
It's just like, but I do think that it means something. I think it's like a thinning of the veil, like showing.
Oh. Do you want to do the time you looked through the veil and peered to another world? Is it right now?
Perhaps it's just reminding me of it, but I think I can do that scene. That is a past scene, right? Yeah.
It's supposed to be a flashback, yeah.
A time when, yeah. So there was a time when a young man, Hank Stevens, Chance Stevens at the time, was in the frontier, and it was kind of a deserty frontier, and there was a young woman who was at a saloon. He was at the saloon, and there was chemistry there, and he followed the young woman out into the moonlight, and she kind of gave chase, and he followed, and all of a sudden he found himself not in a desert, but in a forest. And all of a sudden she was not a young woman, but some kind of a beast, but that he was still fascinated with and followed and gave chase. And then all of a sudden he found that he himself was something not entirely human. And then back in the desert.
Good. Let's take a quick 5-minute break. Miss Blakely, Ms. Beaumont invites you to join her to descend down a spiraling iron staircase into her private workshop.
Absolutely.
This, of course, is where I
Afraid
do my most important work, Miss Blakely. And as she goes down, you can hear the fabrics that are draped all over her sort of, swooshing on the stairs. You get down into the workshop, and you see that there are dozens of lamps hanging from the ceiling. They're flickering lights, almost trying to escape the room. Shelves overflow with cascading bolts of expensive cloth, walls overgrown with grasping vines and withered flowers are all around. Suits and gowns of exquisite craftsmanship line the room, connected by faint silvery thread. And frozen in uncanny human gestures, instead of mannequins, they are posed on the hollow bodies, presumably of her former suitors, because you'll recall a number of her suitors have gone missing. I paint the scene for everyone. The bodies dressed and preserved here have been arranged with obsessive attention to detail. How does their presentation mimic the setting of a Fae court?
I think it looks, when you're looking on, standing in the center of the room and kind of spinning around and looking around, it looks like a painting, a tableau of people looking like they're about to dance. People look like they're in the middle of a conversation. People look like they're laughing. Some people look like they're being angry. Just a lot of body language being displayed.
I think an unusual feature of Fae courts is that they are divided into 3 parts, because every Fae court is like triumvirately ruled. There are 3. And here, this room is divided into 3 parts, which is an unusual thing for a structurally unusual thing.
I think just that the eyes of these bodies seem to follow you wherever you are in the room, or almost the attention of the body seems to be focused on you wherever you're standing as you move about the room.
The hollowed out bodies actually are a strange visual metaphor for how the Fae are. And even their faces are, even though the bodies are hollowed out, the faces are frozen or rictus of what you can tell is false laughter.
Miss Blakely, please make the night move. What are you afraid is going to happen if you lose your nerve right now?
I'm afraid I'm going to turn out like Sylvia and just be this hollow husk and probably be one of these mannequin people.
Worse than that, you are going to be turned into a handmaiden of Hazel Beaumont in this Fae court. Please roll with sensitivity. And let me see if I want to punch one of your conditions as well. Oh, the wax doll obviously applies here.
I was afraid you were going to say that. I'm looking at my personal
disadvantage.
quarters.
You better look at, you better find something on personal quarters because your sensitivity is not great.
Yep. I'm going to think on looking around this room. I'm going to think on my enormous wardrobe and how, while so many of the things in this room are really exquisite and beautiful, I have exquisite and beautiful things too. Miss Beaumont isn't that special.
Very good.
And I think that's kind of helping me feel a little less nervous about this. That gives me, it takes away the disadvantage.
Yeah, it's just flat roll. And mark it.
Oh gosh. Okay, that's an 8.
Okay, not too bad.
That's pretty good.
Okay, so let's talk about that. You keep it together, and I'm curious how you're feeling when you see all this.
I think Miss Blakely expected to see something very strange, considering what happened last night, that the parts that she remembers and the parts that she doesn't, and the repercussions of that. I think she was expecting something kind of horrifying, but this is also beautiful. And I think that's the thing that's really kind of surprising to her.
I'm going to give you a condition called sort of a poetic thing. I'm going to give you a condition called the 8 Hands of Beauty.
Ooh, okay.
And so we'll pick up the scene in a moment. I want to check back in with Okay, Pope. Now at this point, now that your scene is sorted with Dr. Noble, what would you like to do? I'll give you one chance to do something today besides that. Oh, you're gonna go. You're investigating Ms. Fenwicket, right?
Yes, exactly. Word has come back to me of her disappearance, and I would like to go speak to the bereaved or bereft husband.
Yeah, the young husband. He is. She hadn't. This is a very new marriage. He is not Mr. Fenwicket. He is, we'll say, Mr. Moore. And this is fairly fresh, actually. He answers the door to the dingy little flat they had just rented. She was moving out of the house of the family she served to make a life with him. And he says, yes, can I help you?
My name is Pope. I was an acquaintance of your wife, Velma. Word reached me that she went missing, and I was wondering if there's anything I could do to help, or any information you might be able to provide me that would help me to understand what has happened.
He says, well, it is certainly not the sort of marital bliss I was expecting. We had taken a trip to the shore to celebrate our new marriage, invite you in. And I didn't see it myself, but those who did said they watched her dance on the pier. They watched her walk right off into the ocean, wearing that beautiful wedding dress that she was so proud of.
I'm very sorry to hear, sir. Have you any idea, had she spoken to anyone while you were, before this happened, or
here make the information move with presence?
Okay, that's going to be a straight roll. An 8.
He says, well, the only thing I can recall about her behavior that was particularly strange is just how much she loved that wedding dress. It was made by this apparently very famous, renowned fashion designer here in the city. It was a gift. It just came to our doorstep one day, wrapped in a beautiful blue box.
And the name of this designer, would it happen to be? And I'm sorry, I'm drawing a total blank.
Beaumont.
What's the name?
Beaumont.
Beaumont.
Yes, that's right. Yes. Are you an associate of Miss Beaumont? Are you here to retrieve the dress or something?
Let us say she sent something of an unexpected gift my way in as well.
He says, it's a curious thing. We found something in the box with the dress. And he goes and retrieves something for you. This is your clue. He says, it's the funniest thing. And he pulls out a book of fairy tales. And he says, why would such a thing be included with a wedding dress? Perhaps to suggest that we were going to have a fairy tale marriage, I guess. But it's curious that he kind of opens the book and is flipping through it. It says, someone has made corrections in the margins.
Very curious. Would it be possible? Would you mind if I took this with me? I can return it at a later date.
Certainly, certainly. How did you know my wife?
She and I were acquainted in our youth and had stayed in touch over the years. We grew up on the same street here in the East End.
A romantic connection?
No, nothing like that.
Oh.
Nothing you need to worry about, sir.
Well, she's dead. Really nothing to worry about, right?
All I mean to say, sir, is that I'm sure she was devoted to you and
yes, right.
Would have been a faithful wife.
Had she not thrown herself into the ocean. And I think, oh, go ahead.
It may be that there's more to it than that. I don't believe Velma would have taken her own life.
If you find something out, I'd love to hear it.
Of course.
And he'll leave you be. I don't think there's any extra complication, just kind of like the scene how it went. Dr. Noble, what are you going to do with the rest of your day?
She's going to tend to the child a little bit more. And then, I mean, we don't have any memory of anything of that of last night, or we sort of remember.
You recall everything up to the point where the spider creature came out of the shadows and wrapped Miss Belrose in silk, and then it all went blank.
Okay. And then she'll actually start looking at some of the stitches that she had made, with the silver thread that she used from Hazel. And then again, still just admiring her own handiwork. She's actually going to look into the waxwork invite. I mean, is that exhibit happening tonight, or is that happening?
I do like the idea of it happening
like as part of the gala. I mean, I'm just curious.
I'm curious too. I haven't really thought on it. Maybe maybe it's part of Theodora's party because
she bought up more than one place.
Well, no, maybe they're just maybe they just have Madame Tussauds just has a display there, special, and this makes a certain amount of sense because she was the legendary pirate queen of Barbuda. I'm sure she has stories about horrors of the deep that she's seen, or at least claims to have seen. So maybe it's all happening in one place in Cremorne Gardens.
Yeah. So I mean, at the very least, I mean, she's going to start taking a walk down there again because, after finding the dorsal fin and then just wanting to, very curious now, why this would be.
You got clues that suggest it could be fake or real, right? I mean, it's interesting. And then you don't know what the follow-up question is, so you might want to hold some of those clues in reserve as well.
Right.
But so Cremorne Gardens is a little different than normal. Normally it's quite busy in the day, or at least there's a lot of people around, but now there's not. They have changed Cremorne Gardens for this party. And here I have a paint the scene for everyone. How has Cremorne Gardens been changed to reflect the celebration of Theodora's legendary nautical career? Because she was not just a pirate, she eventually became a legendary trader as well, right? That's how she made her fortune.
I think that flat facades have been cut and painted and then pushed up over the normal storefronts, so they all look like ships.
Nice.
I think there's large paintings everywhere, or what's the thing like? Oh my gosh, I can't think of the word.
Canvases?
Box art, you know, when you do art and it's in like a
Dioramas.
box, dioramas, thank
Yeah.
you. Box art and big dioramas of different stories and exploits that Lady Brathwaite had in her past. Some of maybe exaggerated for, you know, fun effect, some maybe not. There's definitely some giant squids in there and such, but it's all very tastefully done.
Indeed.
Interspersed with the storefronts and the dioramas would be also a celebration of all the industry that she has traded in, like, you know, as a pirate, as a legitimate trader. So they have like the wines, they have the fabrics, they have goods and services and everything. So everybody's kind of got their own little booth, like near the diorama around the time of her life. So it's very thematic, is what's going on.
I think Cremorne Gardens backs onto the river, so there's some kind of you know, the embankment there has been made up to look something like a kind of tropical beach. You know, there has been sand spread and
Good, yeah.
And you know, there are a couple of potted palm trees that look very out of place in the kind of grey London sky.
It's good. I like it. Okay, that's great. Well, so Dr. Noble, I'll give you a bit of time here. I mean, you can still go in Cremorne Gardens, even though it's not really like set up for the public today. And all the other sorts of things are there. It's just that I've described previously, but it's just kind of not super active right now, apart from just workers setting things up. What do you do?
I mean, is Tussaud's exhibit
Starting to be
nearby?
put up? Yeah,
Yeah.
it is. Yeah.
The
Horrors of the Deep.
Yeah, is Horrors of the Deep like behind some big tent, or?
Yeah, I think that's what it is. They have like a large like tent, and like they have the little displays and dioramas with the various creatures sort of set up inside of it.
And pardon, I don't remember existing, or if they're just using her name, but like, you know, the current curator, owner, Tussaud, or someone
she's actually quite dead, but it is her children who run it now.
I was gonna say, I'm like, you know, so whoever is like actually, you know, running the thing and organizing, it's like, you know, Dr. Noble would like to find this person and just kind of see if she can get a sneak peek of the exhibit.
I like it. I don't think I want to role play that necessarily, at least not the
that's fine.
Talking to the people part. Just do like an information move with presence, I think.
Okay. And with conditions, that's disadvantage, right?
No, because I'm not invoking any of them, so it should be regular 2 dice.
Oh, okay, cool. 4 + 2 and 0 = 6.
We'll come back to that. Let's go to Sure Shot. So the pie shop is, you've seen the You've been in the apartment above the shop. You've been in the rear of the shop, which is the kitchen. You've been down in the basement, importantly, which is where the horror show is. You have not been to the front yet.
Yeah, I was actually going to try and go to the nearest, like I was going to go to the pie shop and then look from there for the nearest, like church, and ask questions there about if anything has gone missing, if they know any of the figs. Because there was all those that pile of religious iconery was in there.
Yeah, that's right. There was. I think there's probably a little church there, and I think like you can go find the vicar, and he's probably this time of day he's probably just like sort of meeting with elderly women who need spiritual guidance. And what do you do?
Do I guess can I retcon and say like I took one of the pieces of like of the religious
sure,
icon,
yeah.
and I think
like
I'll
what
just
specifically? A cross, a Bible?
well something that looked most distinct and not generic, something that would
Okay.
be recognizable, perhaps.
I think there's a rosary that was. This might be another clue, actually, but I think one of the rosaries has beads, but also human finger bones.
Oh, I see. Okay. Yeah, and I'll get the vicar alone and just talk with him, like asking him, did you know Mrs. Fig? Did she come here? Did you know any of the Figs? Did they come here? Just see if he knows anything about it. And then if it seems like maybe he does, I might present this to him. Even if he doesn't know the Figs, I might present this to him and say, do you recognize this as belonging to anybody that you know?
No, interesting. Go ahead and roll the information move with presence.
Okay. 8.
8. Very good. Let me take a look at the clues. It says, well, it says, I did know the Fig family. I patronized their shop quite often. That little pork pie they make is delicious. You know, the one with the little pig stamped on the crust. It is very, very tasty. I do wonder where they get their meat. I've never had anything so delicious from old Silas Gren's place. Oh, did you hear about Silas Gren?
I don't believe so.
Oh, murdered. They found his body just yesterday, if you can imagine it. Terrible, terrible what the city's coming to.
It really is something.
It says,
Anyway.
so where did you find this?
Well, I'd rather not suggest where I found it in case that helps. That helps with I don't want to give you a false memory in case by suggesting where I found it. Do you recognize it though?
Are the Figs in some sort of trouble? They have been missing for a few days.
Well, that's one thing that we're trying to find out.
Says, well, I do know that L'Artensia was a collector of things. She liked to collect things in, she set her mind to something. And for example, I know that she was very, very fond of collecting theater tickets and opera tickets, but torn as if they had been used. She gathered those from anybody who had them. I think she liked the idea of perhaps holding on to a little bit of someone's good memories.
But she never went herself?
Oh, I don't know if that is really the sort of thing that the Figs would be interested in doing. They're very busy, of course, with their shop. They do a brisk business. L'Artensia, there's a very, very tragic story with that family. Do you know what happened to them?
I'm not from around here. Please enlighten me.
Well, a number of years ago, when the boys were very, very little, they, at that time, I gather they lived in a mining town, and L'Artensia and her boys, they were trapped in a cave-in, and in order to keep her sons alive, because no one was coming right away, she let them eat her arm. That's why she's missing her arm.
Really?
And I think that's probably why those boys have such strange behaviors, the trauma response.
I see.
But yes, she loved collections of things, opera tickets, buttons, and Bibles and things. She used to come in all the time and ask if she could. Well, I sometimes caught her claiming little baubles that were left behind.
Oh, I see. And you think this is one?
Yes, I suppose. Well, I don't recall that specific piece. It's a strange thing, isn't it? What are these strange-looking beads here?
Oh, I wouldn't worry too much about them, but it does make the piece recognizable. So if you don't recognize it, then it must be from somewhere else.
Well,
Perhaps she made it herself.
I don't know, but well, if you do find out anything about them, though, where they've gone, I'd love to hear. I'm worried about them terribly. They were a very,
Sure.
very sweet family, very loving, despite their peccadillos.
Oh, I see. Did they attend here?
No, little Patrick, you can't really take him out, and I fear Obert had, let's just say, I think he was what we might call in the trade a heathen of sorts.
And the mother, you said that she collected baubles from around here. Did she ever speak with you?
Well, she was a quiet woman, but she did attend services every now and then.
Did she
I
ever
never saw Mr. Fig. He was always very, very busy with the shop.
Certainly. Did she ever confess anything to you?
No, she didn't. Well, I have to go. And he sort of like excuses himself. If you hear anything about them, let me know. Everyone's very worried. I think they just want the pie shop to be open again.
Everybody likes a good pie. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Indeed. But that's your clue. Large collections of small objects. So I think that'll probably wrap up Sure Shot's day phase. We'll check back in with Miss Blakely. Miss Blakely, where did we leave you? You were just walking down into the shop. You saw all this. Yeah. You're keeping yourself together, but you are entranced by the eight hands of beauty. And she turns to you and she says, I do wonder what it's like for someone like you, Miss Blakely, to not be the center of attention. I mean, how could you even bear to live in Hargrave House anymore?
I can't possibly know what you speak of.
Well, it's just that I think that Dr. Noble is a very fascinating individual.
Yes, well, I'm sure she is. Now, why exactly were you at Hargrave House? What was the purpose of that fashion show? You must know, you have to know that we were not aware of this.
And you can do the information move with sensitivity. I am curious what she's going to say here. I want you to take it at disadvantage. Go for it.
Disadvantage with sensitivity. You're just trying to get me to use masks, aren't you? Oh dear. Okay. That's 2.
You will notice that as you've been talking, those lamps that are hanging above, they're all going out one by one, creating just a little spotlight of light around you. And otherwise darkness in the subterranean workshop.
This is
Ms.
always
Beaumont
tough to decide if I want to use a mask or not.
Ms. Beaumont says, let's just say that I like to lay traps for the flies. And you see those glittering red eyes in the darkness, and those razor forelimbs. What do you do?
Can I still use a mask?
Yes.
Perfect. I'm going to do that. I love the drama of it, but I don't want to get eaten by a spider right now.
You still got to see the drama.
I wanted to see the drama. I need to know what's going to happen. I am going to mark. I'm going to mark the cosmic passage.
Ah, very good.
So my specific cosmic passage says, whenever you gaze upon the masterwork and attempt to uncover something hidden in the world, roll with sensitivity, which is not my greatest. On a 10 plus, the masterwork will reveal a clue or a mastermind clue, my choice. On a 7 to 9, as above, but I also scar my reflection.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, you get a move, which is cool.
Which is super cool.
So instead, the lamps do not go out, and she says, I think that it was just an interesting confluence of events. I was very interested in speaking to Dr. Noble because she is most fascinating. And Mrs. Brathwaite was very interested in having me show off my skill set. Well, when she suggested the location of the impromptu show, it lined up nicely with my own goals and desires. And here she's just telling you things you might already know. But she does also give you a clue. She says, I also needed to meet with one of the guests, Mr. Pomeroy. I don't know if you had much time to speak to him, but he is very, very interested in, let's just say, avant-garde fashion. And I knew he was invited to Mrs. Brathwaite's impromptu gathering, and so I was also able to pick his brain to discover what sorts of ideas he has about fashion.
About fashion, I see. So this was all about just fashion, nothing strange.
Well, Miss Blakely, there are so many twists and turns to be had, so many interesting patterns in the web to explore. It's not something we can do right now in the short amount of time we have together.
Very well. Well, I do plan to attend a party tonight. So let me check out your wares. And then I will be out of your hair, so to speak.
I think I have something that would look lovely on you. But that's your clue, though, is that Vincent Pomeroy
Does anyone remember what he was doing at the party? I remember nothing about him.
Vincent Pomeroy expressed an interest in avant-garde fashion. Our notes about Vincent Pomeroy say nothing. There are no notes about him.
There are no notes.
A bit of a mystery man. That's okay, though. Let's cut over to Pope. Is there anything else you need to do? You already questioned.
Yeah, we had the question with Dr. Noble and
Mr. Moore. Let's just, I don't think we left anything hanging, right? So let's go over to Dr. Noble then. Dr. Noble, what was your result? You got a miss, right?
6.
Dr. Noble, before you walk into the tent, you hear the song that allegedly has lured pleasure seekers into the water. It's distant but there. Song is it's not a song, it's a melody more than anything. It's a melody, not a song. The melody is sad melody. I'm curious, what does it make you think of as you listen to it on the air? And also, the instrument is unclear. What's making this music?
There's like an underlying tone of the melody that reminds me of an old sea shanty that my love's mother would sing.
Very good.
And she hears also underneath like some kind of droning pipe music.
Good. Take a condition, the song, or it's not a song, you call it a song. Call it the the condition is going to be music from the past.
Okay.
And by the time you come out of this light fugue state, you find yourself having walked all the way back to Hargrave House. And that will conclude the day phase. A productive day phase. You all got lots of clues. Let's talk about the dusk. Okay, sure shot. Let's see if werewolf action is happening tonight.
No. 7. This close.
It loves you. Take train. And let's keep going. You get 2 from the Resurrectionist list, Dr. Noble.
Again, still obsessed. So grave robbers will dig up corpses that night during the dawn phase, acquire a body part for the child.
Very good.
And let's see. Face no blowback or complications from any criminal activities.
Very good. Let's talk about unquenchable thirst. Doesn't apply yet. Doesn't apply. Let's talk about Hargrave House. Our paint the scene for Hargrave House is going to be the map room. The map room is littered with maps of the city, of England, of the world, and some of them are highly unusual. Name one of these unusual maps and describe why it's so strange.
I think there's a map of the intersections between places on the British Isles and places in the Fey realm. So there are kind of, locations that are marked and across Ireland and Scotland and parts of England and Wales that are kind of where, and they together make up a kind of geometric pattern, and somebody has been hand marking these maps with some kind of annotations and figuring out how these places connect together.
I like it. It's a good connection to the Mask of Glamour as well. Strange maps.
There is one that is it's in a book instead of rolled. And on the cover of the book, it says like the ways between the worlds or something like that. And you open it up, and it's a thick piece of paper, and it actually is to a place that you have no idea where this place is, but it has a pull tab on the side that has the months of the year on it. As you pull it, like part of the map shifts, and for every month you pull it, more of the map shifts.
Good.
I think there is, buried underneath a whole bunch of other star charts and naval charts and stuff like that, there's a star chart, but upon closer inspection, it's not of this galaxy. This is, if you were standing somewhere in like the Andromeda galaxy, this is what you would see. And there's a clear spot marked for the Milky Way. It's not called that specifically in this map. It's called something different. The writing is illegible. But yeah, this is clearly not. It's probably been passed off as, oh, well, this is a useless star chart, but it is highly accurate.
Very nice.
In a innocuous burlap sack, there is a picture of a sea creature, unidentifiable, but you can tell it's of the sea. And inside is an eel skin that's been treated, so there are etched markings in it showing a shoreline, which looks suspiciously like the British Isles shoreline. And then outward from there are radial patterns with connected paths that look like they are under the water.
I like it. That's very good. I'll give that to you as a clue. The Eelskin map is a clue for the Creature of Cremorne Gardens. So, continuing on. Everybody says what they're going to do tonight. Going around the table. Pope.
First, I want to bring the Book of Fairy Tales to the attention of the other hunters, so we can discuss that. And then I think I'm at Dr. Noble's disposal from that point onward. I don't have anything specific in mind.
Dr. Noble, what are you doing tonight?
After being completely bemused by ending up back at Hargrave House when she was clearly headed for the exhibit, she is going to be determined to go back there after talking with Pope and the other hunters to pool our information of what we have so far, but definitely intending upon attending that exhibit, seeing what horrors they're planning on showing. And then just seeing if of interest. Actually, she's also going to bring that map.
Okay, good. Miss Blakely, what are you doing tonight?
I'm definitely going to that party. Absolutely. Not just because Lady Brathwaite's throwing a party and I want to crash it, but also there's mysteries and stuff happening.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's the locus of a lot of things right now. Sure Shot, what are you doing tonight?
Probably want to go to the party as well, but I want to see if the group's interested in trying to answer some of these questions. We've got a lot of clues.
You have a lot of clues. It might inform what you do tonight as well.
Yeah.
Well, do you have a theory for one of the questions?
I do on the fig side of things, but I think we've got a lot of clues for this Creature of Cremorne Gardens. We should maybe try and answer that one as well. But I've been thinking about the figs one in particular.
Possibly for the spider as well.
We could probably answer a few questions, really.
Well, I mean, where do we want to start? I mean, this is the time to do it if we're going to do it. So,
I'll push out my theory for the figs.
okay, for which one? Because there's 3 different figs.
Right. I think that Obert prefers victims that are left-handed from the collection of skeletal left hands, small to big, and the skeletal hand stuck in the wound. I think that the collection bit is his mother doing it because she just compulsively collects things, but like that's the kind of victim that he likes because they taste better for whatever reason.
So you're going to mark. So we're marking 2 clues. This collection of skeletal left hands and the skeletal hand stuck in a wound was a left hand. So you think Obert prefers left-handed victims,
right? Because they taste just so.
And it's possible that La Hortensia at some point was raising her family with this religious background, and there was for a long time in certain
there's a belief that left-handed people are going to hell. Yeah.
Right.
It makes them taste just so.
Yeah.
Indeed. That's intriguing. Well, so I mean, 2 clues makes it a flat roll on Obert. Mm-hmm. Unless you want to also suggest that the religious items sort of play into that as well, in which case it would be a +1.
I think the religious items, I think they play into the whole family. That definitely could play into Obert's left-handedness, but I think it is part of, again, what La Hortensia lost that she's trying to get back. Clearly, there's a lot of weird PTSD going on in this family.
Yeah, a lot of PTSD, a lot of trauma. Yeah.
I want to take a guess at Patrick because, I mean, with the mice skeletons, if he's being a creature now and then not considering himself of the family and human, it sounds to me like he's verging towards being a cat because of the mice skeletons. So he's, again, kind of verging off of the whole Hortensia doing the collection. I mean, he's collecting his prey. I mean, he's collecting his
right. But we only have the 1 clue for that now.
So I think we're gonna.
I had a slightly different interpretation for that one, actually. That he was becoming a snake.
Oh.
Also ties into the mice skeletons, but also could tie into the kind of iconography of the serpent in the Garden of Eden.
Yeah.
Wow.
So if we leave the mice skeletons for Patrick and we leave the collections for La Hortensia, what do we want to do with the pile of religious items? Do we want to use that for Obert, or? I
don't know. We might just wait and see what opportunities present themselves, and if that.
Well, I think Rob's idea about the religious items being like hinting at the snake in the garden, right? Which is why it's good for Patrick as well, right? I mean, it's interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got 2 and flat roll on Obert if you want to try that. If you don't want to use the religious items yet, because it sounds like the religious items can work for all 3 of them.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm good with a flat roll.
Yeah. Who's feeling lucky?
It was your theory.
Not me, the way I've been rolling today.
Yeah. All right. Do a thing. Snake eyes.
Snake eyes. It's wrong, and it's a big reaction from me. If you all want to avoid this, you can all mark Janus Mask. Otherwise, it's happening.
Okay. How does that work with the other masks, like the Mask of Revelry?
You cannot use that one because that's only for when you're doing something with the Creature of Cremorne Gardens.
So, I see. Yeah, gotcha.
Yeah, we would have to mark one of our masks of the past or future because we've already used the Pig's mask.
Yes.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah, and you'd all have to mark it. So make that decision now.
I'd be willing to mark a mask.
Yeah.
You all have some to spend. Yeah.
Does it just avoid the reaction, or does it also make the theory?
It makes it correct. It makes it a 7-9. It makes it a correct, and it makes a 7-9 means it's correct, but basically catching Obert is going to be tough. Like stopping, like the resolution will be hard, but it's correct. You now have permission to stop Obert, basically.
Yeah. So. Versus the resolution will be very hard, and we were wrong.
And,
Right.
well, you were wrong, so you can't even do the resolution, and
Yeah.
Obert will probably strike at you. So
Yeah.
I'm good with marking a mask if everyone else is.
Yeah,
everyone
me too.
mark a mask. And
Okay. Dusk.
Oh, that was scary, but it'll be fine.
but it is correct. So
Yeah, we got it right.
Yeah. Why can't I get snake eyes on turned into a werewolf?
So you now have the ability to lure Obert to you. I'm not sure how that's going to go. The victim is left-handed. That's the important part. Lure Obert to you and capture or destroy it.
Is anybody? I know we're not supposed to talk about our characters, but is anyone left-handed?
Sure shot is left-handed.
Yay!
I drew a picture of him 2 sessions ago where he was left-handed.
Perfect.
That's right. Yeah, that's good. Okay, great. Well, so that is now available to you. Any more questions we want to answer?
For
I think
this particular mystery or for anything else?
For any of the threats, yeah, they're all on the table.
I think we could probably answer the creature threat, the real, or is it a hoax?
I'm very curious about that because you have clues that strongly indicate both, but it could be that only some of them apply to the real or hoax and the others apply to the resolution. So
Yeah.
I want to say real because, scientifically, large dorsal fin ripped off, like you got caught, coming back or trying to hide. And then the pearl, it's too, it's something too valuable, too perfect for somebody to just find, per se. And I mean, again, like Dr. Noble would want to do like a correlation thing of like, this eelskin map is fascinating, to be able to say, is this, is this something new? Is it a new, zoological find? It's just like all scientific, like, over it. So
I have an alternate pitch in that it's fake. Because capitalism. Madame Tussaud suddenly already having a whole wax figure dedicated to this mystery monster that just showed up a little while ago. Wow, what a coincidence. Gonna make some money.
That's good.
The fact that this monster has shown up and attacked people, but nobody has a really good, like, clear idea of what it is. That kind of sounds like oh yeah, it's Bigfoot for real. We should sell Bigfoot pictures, that kind of thing. I don't know
Viral
what the
marketing.
Yeah, viral marketing in Victorian London. A large flawless pearl. Well, Lady Brathwaite's involved, and she's a pirate queen. She probably has a lot of weird stuff like that. But that's
so
like I said, could be either way, right?
So the Horrors of the Deep Waxwork, the advertisement for Madame Tussauds, and of course this invitation to, all of these things just strongly indicate the same thing, which is Madame Tussauds is really, really trying to get this viral marketing stunt going, which is what the creature is. People are just, it's hysteria, essentially, right? Yeah. I think those 3 clues speak to it pretty well.
I think it comes down to whether or not we as players want the fish people to be real, or if we want the fish people
That's
to
what
be
it comes
fake.
down to. Yeah. Like, is this a real thing or a fake thing? Yeah. I'm surprised that Dr. Noble went with real, considering Dr. Noble's usual skepticism of such things.
True, but okay. Like, again, it's like maybe me playing my character badly.
No.
I mean, me as a player, I just want it to be real because
as a player,
again,
having
the physical proof.
Yeah.
The physical proof to her is just like, this is something mysterious and not necessarily supernatural because
could be a scientific thing, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Totally scientific fascination, scientific curiosity. So
I think real. And here's my pitch. Yes, the ripped off dorsal fin. Yes, the flawless pearl, because the creature produces pearls and eats creatures with dorsal fins. And the scrimshaw that we saw in the water is old scrimshaw depicting this creature because this creature has been around for a while. Madame Tussaud, original Madame Tussaud, knew about it her
Love it.
children found the journals and are just now exploiting what she wrote in the journals about this creature into a waxwork.
That's a lot of clues to spend on.
I don't know if we want to spend them all.
Yeah.
I don't know if we want to spend
Yeah.
them all, but we can make as strong a case as we would like with those clues.
You can make a strong case for both. I'm curious to get
Yeah.
Rob's input here.
I mean, what is the minimum we need just to
Just to try is 2. That's it. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Or
Because then we
actually,
still have
you can try as long as you have half the amount of clues needed. You don't have to use them all, though. You don't have to use any
Okay.
of them. You
Well,
can
I mean, like,
theoretically
'cause-
roll at -4.
well, right, but I mean, like, my question is, it's like, so how many? We don't
need-
know how many questions follow this one.
You
like,
do not know. You don't know what's coming up.
damn it!
I know.
But we need 4 to get to 0.
Amanda
on a
knows,
roll.
but and I don't care if you say Amanda. That's fine.
Yeah,
no, I'm not spoiling.
I was into the idea of the fake, but then again, that last theory that just tied kind of everything all together is pretty compelling. So I feel like we could go for that, but maybe save a few clues for
Oh yeah,
for later.
love it. We have a real fish creature. Yay! What clues do we want to use?
I say we use at least 4.
Okay. So the dorsal fin, the
Yeah, we don't
pearl,
want to mark another
Grimshaw, and maybe just the basic idea of the horrors of the deep.
Yeah, I like
Yes.
that.
Mhm.
Yes.
Do we want to
Yeah.
have any more to push this up, since we just did snake eyes and everybody marked a
Yeah,
mask
maybe
already?
one-
I want to say,
maybe
I want
one
to say
more.
eel skin, the eel
The,
skin
the
map.
map
Yeah.
indicates that there's
Yeah.
like this subterranean world, right? Or
Yeah.
this
Yeah, and it's been
Nautica world.
Yeah, it's been sitting in Hargrave House for however long. It's not like
Yeah.
Madame Tussauds children snuck in and put it in there to get us to go to the
and
show.
then that would be the thing, right? I mean, like, if you're going to consider an advertisement, this would be like a way long con. So I don't think
I'm
that's
into it.
possible.
I'm into it. So you have
Okay.
+1 on the roll. So
All right, I will go ahead and try.
take it away, Mads.
5 + 2 + 1 is 8.
The question is unlocked. And I need to go find it. Give me a moment.
Oh, I might have
If-
it open.
If the creature is real, the next question is, what does it want? And you resolve the threat by luring the creature to you, then destroying it or convincing it to go back wherever it came from, your choice. So what does the creature want? That's
You know what? I have a
complexity
clue. I already have a theory on that, even without any clues.
4. Lure the creature to you and destroy it or convince it to go away.
Awesome. Okay.
That is also complexity 4.
Okay, and we have 2 clues.
Yep. And they're basically the same clue.
But we are going to the gardens tonight,
Sure you
so
are.
we can probably
Yes.
get more clues and hopefully get this. Maybe we can get this tonight. That'd be awesome.
Yeah,
Any
that would be
more?
nice.
Anybody want to make another stab at a fig's pig question, or we're all good to go?
I was wondering about the spider silk seamstress, actually, that
Yeah.
the first question there is like, how is the creature ensnaring her victims? And it feels to me that there's something going on with this intricate pattern on the garments and the fascination with fashion, that there's some kind of hypnotic pattern at play here that's
Yeah.
drawing the victims in.
I
Mhm.
think that the book of the book of fairy tales would lead to the creature's true name, but in terms of the ensnaring her victims, between the pattern and the jar, Dr. Noble identified it as poisoning. There is I want to say that the pattern is kind of like a post-hypnotic suggestion that can be seen, and then like like getting the more susceptible victims to fall under its sway, and then the jar itself is some kind of you can convince victims for it being like like some kind of wonderful perfume or a wonderful potion to imbibe before experiencing the wonders of the fashion and the grandeur of what she's going to have you wear. So it's some kind of drug. It's like some kind of yeah.
And I
Hargrave
think it's
seems
very easy to get people like Vincent Pomeroy who have interest in avant-garde fashion. You get people with a solid interest in fashion that are willing to try things out. It's real easy to pluck victims from that realm of society.
And that notion of kind of avant-garde fashion ties into an intricate pattern, you know, a geometric, maybe non-representational thing going on there that's a little creative.
So if you are going to
Unusual.
pursue this first question, that means that's the resolution you're going for. You basically have to choose between the three which you want to do. If you want to do the other two, you've got to, well, you can make an attempt, but you don't have many clues on the other two. But if you want to just go with the basic question, how is the creature ensnaring our victims? This is a good start. The resolution of this one is harder than the other two, so just be aware.
Do we want to wait and get some more clues on that?
I think I'd like to.
Okay.
Sure. Yeah, we're already working hard on 2 questions here, so
Sure.
we can let this one sit for a bit.
Okay.
Well, we got that percolating in our brains, so that's good.
A lot to percolate.
Indeed.
Coffee.
Coffee.
Need
we all
coffee.
get advantage.
And if you wish, you do have the ability to try to go after Obert as well. So does anybody want to revise their plans for the evening, or are we still all going to Cremorne Gardens?
Who's going to miss a party or exhibit?
I was wondering, what about if the 3 of you go to Cremorne Gardens and Pope goes after Obert?
By yourself? Oh no.
You
Or
feel
is-
lucky. I mean, seriously.
No, not.
Which
My
hand
luck's
did
gotta
he
change
severely
sometimes, but-
damage for
How
you?
are you going to lure him?
Ooh.
I mean, because like that's the key, is how are you going to lure him there? You know, how are
Was
you going
he-
to convince him there's a good victim?
Yeah, was he trying to take your left hand before? Is
Yeah,
that what
perhaps,
happened?
yeah.
He was already trying
Yeah,
to
or
make you a
perhaps-
victim.
You can
Or-
play up how it's still
My right hand
injured,
was
even though I
injured,
tried to
yeah.
help you. So I mean,
So I'm
you can
forced to using my left hand because
Right.
Oh,
the
that's
right
good.
hand has been
something.
injured.
Oh, that's good. You're now forced to use your left hand, and because he's already encountered you once, you might be a person of interest, right? Oh, that's interesting.
Are you
Yeah,
going
he
to pull an
knows-
Inigo Montoya?
I like where this is going. It's very good. Okay, so that sounds like a good plan. Where are you going to try to lure him out? Exactly. You're going to go back to the scene of the crime, like Silas's?
Yeah, I think so. Perhaps go to the actual pie shop and
I'll go to the pie shop. Okay.
try to
Down in his basement temple.
Right.
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, good. That's dangerous. It's gonna be dangerous, but I'm into it. Okay. So, okay, well, that's all sorted then. Let's go ahead and continue on with our phase tracker. Janus Mass prompts. We are owed quite a bit here. If anyone's ready, everyone owes, everybody except for David owes the peering into another world from the Mask of Glamour. And then you all also, some of you probably owe things from your Mask of the Past as well. So if anybody wants to do it now, you can do it now, or you can wait till the dawn.
I can do the peer through the veil mask.
Go for it.
I think Miss Blakely is getting ready for this party, and she's in her rooms, doing her hair and getting all gussied up. And she is thinking on how the Miss Beaumont was like kind of digging at her about Dr. Noble, and that's definitely under Miss Blakely's skin. Absolutely, it is. And she's feeling kind of uncomfortable, and she's now thinking about other times, she's felt uncomfortable like this. And one time is when she was a younger woman, and she was sitting in the area where her cathedral is now. And she was looking at the cathedral getting built and watching the progress. And one moment she blinks and she doesn't see the cathedral anymore. She sees a house. And outside the house in a rocking chair is a very old woman. And she is rocking back and forth, watching little kids kind of run around. yelling, great grandma, look at me, I'm doing this, look at me, watch me do this. And they're doing flips and stuff because kids do that kind of thing, I suppose. And as Miss Blakely watches this old woman, she realizes she's seeing herself. And she's watching her rock back and forth on the chair, and her fingers are just skinny, and she can see the wrinkles on the hands and different spots and marks, and all of her eyes are kind of drooping, and the smile lines and the laugh lines and it's just clearly most people would look at this old woman and say, wow, this is a woman who's lived a very happy life, and clearly it loves all of these children running around, and her home, takes pride in her home. But Miss Blakely is horrified. It is absolutely her worst nightmare. And it startles her to see it. And when she blinks again, she sees again the cathedral and the people putting it together. And she shakes her head, kind of clear her mind, and gets up to go make herself feel better. And that's her flashback.
Thank you. Any other Janus Mask?
Yeah, I was also going to do the one for that prompt as well. So I think, as Pope's kind of getting ready for his evening's pursuit of Obert, he is thinking back on an experience he had when he was a somewhat younger man, before he entered Dr. Noble's employ, and he was at a dance somewhere in the East End of London. This is not a fancy upscale place, and they're dancing a reel where Pope is in his shirt sleeves and kind of swinging between various different partners. And at one point, he finds himself partnered with a young woman who he's never seen before, and she is, he's spun into her presence almost in a blur, and she is ethereally beautiful and dressed in an unusual, somewhat old-fashioned or peculiar way that he doesn't recognize. And the time he spends dancing with her is at once extremely brief, but feels to him almost like a lifetime as they look into each other's eyes. And this is where the dance card that Pope has in the back of a drawer in his quarters comes from. This, he never saw this girl again. When he spun away to dance with another partner and looked back, she was gone, and he couldn't see her after the music ended. And he's always kept this as a memento of this strange experience.
Thank you. Vance?
Yeah, Dr. Noble is getting things ready in whatever way that she has, and she's remembering as she's putting together a small kit to bring to see the exhibit and possibly catch some of the party, but she's looking back at the child, looking at the stitches she made with the thread, and then her mind actually drifts to a time when she was younger. She was a child. She was in the forest near where her parents lived, and she remembers seeing this wonderful spider web. Couldn't see the spider, but the spider web was gorgeous. The beautiful spiral pattern, and it was just so neat and so highlighted by the sunlight and then some dew. And then she's sitting there as a child admiring it, and then a woman comes out in very gossamer type clothing, almost of a different age, and notices her admiring it. And the child, Marissa, points to it and says, "This is quite a beautiful pattern. I wish I knew how to make it. And then the woman looks back at her and says, there's so many more patterns that you can learn in this lifetime, child. Would you like to come and see? And then beyond the spider web, in a nook of the forest, there's a slant of sunlight that almost seems to highlight a different place, a different world, which is actually more in twilight, even though it's morning time. And it sparkles, it shines, it glistens, and the child Marissa almost goes, but then goes back to contemplating the spider web once more. And when she turns back to the woman is gone.
Nice, thank you. Any other Janus mask? All right then. Let me introduce the unseen. Tonight's unseen is going to be moonlit mudlarking. That is on the second row, third over. Moonlit mudlarking. The Port of London is one of the busiest in the world, and with so much cargo being loaded and unloaded, the odd crate ends up overboard. The ebb and flow of the Thames deposits this lost cargo up and down the riverbank. Under the light of the full moon, the desperate or optimistic pick through the sucking mud of low tide, stinking of shit and rotting fish, in the hope of finding treasure. Everyone does the paint scene. And from there, prompt 2 will be Mads, prompt 3 will be David, prompt 4 will be Rob. Let's take a 5-minute break and we'll come back and do the night phase. Moonlit mudlarking. Everyone, what debris from industry, trade, or home life is found washed up on the mud banks of the Thames? What does it tell us about the city?
I think that there is washed up all of the debris from wooden crates and packaging. Like whenever these are opened on the docks, the crates are just discarded into the water. There is no conscious concern for collecting those things and disposing of them properly. Properly is in the water.
Intriguing.
Yeah, and I think we see, those are manufactured of all different types of woods, and they have branded on them the ports where they were shipped from, and there are, the names of far-flung ports all across the British Empire and beyond. Places in every continent.
I think a lot of the ships as well throw a lot of their refuse and garbage just over the side, and frequently that will wash up on the Thames, adding to the stench, because where else is it going to go?
I think that you're going to see bottles because, of course, people are going to go wandering at the shores, the edge of the Thames, and maybe they imbibe a little bit too much and then they decide to just dispose of their bottles any old where into the water. Why not?
Good, I love it. Pope, you have arrived at the pie shop. Do you go into the back or the front?
Definitely through the back.
How are you playing up the idea that you're left-handed right now?
I'm wearing kind of a long coat, and I have my right arm folded in kind of Napoleon style into my pocket, and a bandage, a sling rather, on it, so that it looks as though my right hand is immobilized, but actually I'm inside of there. I think I'm holding a firearm that I've got from Sure Shot. So there's maybe like the hand is inside my jacket and holding like a sawn off shotgun or something down down inside the coat.
Very nice. As you step in, it's quite dark. Do you go down to the basement where we know Obert likes to hang out, or somewhere else?
I think I make a brief survey of the upstairs, and just to see if there's any sign of activity there, or if I can hear anything. And assuming there isn't, I would go listen at the entrance to the basement to see if I can hear anything coming from down there before going in.
You do indeed. You hear a voice from the bottom of the stairs, the same oily voice that you recall from your encounter at Silas's butcher shop. And Obert says, we, in the ancient days, the followers of Mok used to give the swine god their right hands. It was the offering. This is why I choose the victims in the way that I do. To preserve this particular tradition. Although he's being very cryptic. But what do you do?
Can I see him at this point, or just hear the voice coming out from down?
Just hear him.
Okay. I think Pope takes one, a step onto the first step down into the basement and says, I don't particularly care about your traditions or your swine god, but you and I have some unfinished business.
Good. We'll come back to this. I might make you do the night move, but I haven't decided yet. We'll come back though. In any case, the three of you arrive at Cremorne Gardens, and it is filled with people, just packed to capacity. And as you are sort of entering through the gate, there is sapphires, all the things you described earlier. The glass globes have been replaced from the green to the blue. There is sapphire blue bunting everywhere. No sign of Theodora. But an older gentleman in a sort of a naval officer's uniform, sees the three of you stroll in, and he says, "Are you the residents of Hargrave House?"
And who is asking?
I'm terribly sorry, how rude of me. My name is Vice Admiral Thaddeus Flagg.
Thaddeus Flagg. Why do I know that name?
Well, I am, he sort of looks around. I have something of a reputation. But the reason why I asked the question is because I have purchased the mansion right next door to Hargrave House. We're about to be neighbors.
Ah, how delightful.
He says, yes, indeed. He's a very old man, jowly. He's has a look in his eye that gives you a funny feeling, Sure Shot. He says, son, you seem tired. Have you already been enjoying festivities somewhere else this evening?
Not this evening, but suppose I could use a little bit of a break. You see, the lady seems to have, taken over our place at Hargrave House last night.
You refer to Mrs. Brathwaite, of course.
Uh-huh. The pirate queen herself. This
Yes.
is this is more what I was expecting. Ships and whatnot. Loot on every corner. Seems more what you expect from a pirate queen than a fashion show.
Imagine if you had been there, like I was.
Oh, you must have some stories.
Yes, well, you being from America, I'm sure you don't know the most important of the stories. I'm the one who captured Theodora.
Well, suppose that was hopefully as exciting as it sounds.
It was indeed. I bid you all a fantastic evening. I do hope we shall have a chance for tea in the future. As neighbors, of course.
Perhaps you can tell me about the time you captured her then.
I think Blakely completely ignores him.
We cut over to Moonlit Mudlarking. Nats, two youths come to blows over a case of whiskey with a couple of bottles still intact. As they push and shove in the slimy mud, how do we know this fight is about more than just the find?
It's almost like the camera pans from a wide shot, and then they discover it, and then moves in closer as they start to fight over it. But as the camera pans closer, and I actually can see their faces in the mud and the moonlight, you can see one yelling at the other, and then hear the whispered and urgent conversation. One is actually trying to break into the case and get at the whiskey inside, and the other one is trying to save the bottles that remain, because the one who is trying to get into the case has bloodshot eyes and shaking hands and is not really fighting his foe, but more like trying to shake him off in his desperation to get inside the case, onto a bottle, and to open one to sate his own thirst.
Pope, I do want you to make the night move. What do you afraid is going to happen if you lose your nerve right now?
Given that I can't see Obert, I'm concerned that he is preparing to spring at me before I can react, and he will just come straight up the stairs at me, and I won't have time to get my arm out of the sling and bring any force to bear on him.
It's worse than that. You will be slop for the trough by the end of the evening. Please roll with composure.
It's better than nothing. Okay, let's give this a go. I rolled a 2 and a 6, and I have a +1 on composure, so that's a 9.
You're going down the stairs. You are keeping it together. I'm going to give you just a basic condition of unnerved, but you nevertheless continue down. Let's take it. You take it.
Yep.
You get to the bottom, and there are lanterns already lit, and you see this sort of abattoir-like space that has been described to you before by Sure Shot. Dried blood on the walls, devices used to quickly kill victims. On the far end of the room, the shrine with the body, with the pig head. No sign of Obert straight away, though. What do you do?
I think trying to stay away from shadowy corners and keep my back to a wall that I can actually see. I start to carefully move around the room, looking, keeping watch, and trying to be ready for him to jump out at me.
Good. I'll just hold it there for now. Back at Cremorne Gardens, Dr. Noble, your new neighbor, Admiral Flagg, walks off. He's a very popular man here. He's legendary, famous in London society, precisely because he captured Theodora back in the day. But what are you doing right now?
I am looking actually for where the exhibit is, like looking for the tent that was erected. And I'm actually going to head straight there. I mean, I want to see this, and then see what Tussauds passes off for the horrors of the deep, as opposed to what may actually be happening.
Yeah. What are you going to do, Miss Blakely?
I think it's really important to know what Blakely is wearing because she's ridiculous. I think she takes off her coat and hands it to the nearest server. And she's wearing her blue ostrich feather cape, but it is off the shoulders. And her dress is made by Miss Beaumont, and it is silver and blue and green. And it's fairly revealing form-fitting mermaid gown, and the bottom where the fins are, it's just strips of silks, all covered in what looks like scales, but the scales are made of jewels, and her hair is thrown back like she had been, imagine if she had been swimming through gold and jewels and gold flakes, and just all down the top of her body. It's very, very over the top. But she has to prove a point, and she's going to. And she
I
is
love it.
going to walk into this party and look for Lady Brathwaite without making it look like she's looking for Lady Brathwaite.
Very good. And Shusha, what are you doing?
I think that I'm gonna go to the false jungle beach area and just kind of stroll there.
Yeah, good. Looking around?
Yeah.
Do the information move with reason.
Okay. 11.
Hey, good result. I'll give you a clue now. You're walking around this little part of the riverbank, which abuts right up next to Cremorne Gardens. And as you're looking around, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I think there's probably that same kind of wreckage and debris, like the rest of the themes, just like pushed a little back. And Trisha actually like goes out to it past the facade and like kind of kicks through it a little bit.
Yeah, I like that. That's good. Do you have the cosmic passage mark by chance?
No.
You do not. So I'll give you a different clue. Instead, you have in this area coming off the water. No, I take that back. You said you were looking at some of this debris that have either washed up or has been like strategically placed to look.
Yeah,
right.
I think there's some of it that's like decoration, and there's other parts of it's like normal detritus from the river, just like
right. Yeah. Okay, good. Something stands out. You find a piece of jewelry caught up in this wood, in this detritus. It is a beautiful red jewel trimmed with pearls on a tarnished but silver chain, like a pendant. And curiously, it has a smell. It has a very strong, fishy, oily smell. And it looks like it just like either washed up itself or was deposited or dropped here. It's unclear, but it's a clue. I'll note it for you. Fancy pendant with a fishy smell. Dr. Noble, you go inside the exhibit. The horrors of the deep. Everyone, paint the scene. Describe a horror of the deep.
There is a enormous creature that is a cross between a chambered nautilus and a hermit crab and a squid. 1/3, 1/3, and 1/3. It's the big shell of a chambered nautilus, the small legs of a hermit crab and a big claw, but then just like tentacles erupting out of the front of it. And it's like dog-sized.
Nice.
There's just the biggest ever anglerfish. It's huge and it's anglerfish. For anybody listening that doesn't know, anglerfish are the ones with the big teeth and the big eyes and like the big light thing. They're terrifying, and it's just
have they
one
affixed a lantern into that part of the waxwork to make it?
Oh, absolutely,
glow?
To make it look like glow, and it's like an eerie, bright glow that when you walk by, you can't help but stare at.
Very good.
There's a rendering of a kind of giant prehistoric crocodile-like creature, but it has that kind of Victorian understanding of prehistoric creatures where it's extremely thick-limbed and kind of very kind of squat with a short head. It's enormous, but it's not it's not like a live or athletic looking creature. It's just big and bulky and with a huge crocodilian head.
Think they reserved all of the big creatures for the front. So it's the things that you see right away when you enter this tent. And one of the creatures is sort of recessed behind these others, and it's to be the front and the beginnings of this like megalodon type shark. So again, like tons of teeth, like deep, thick snout, tiny eyes on the side, but just massive. And it just gives the impression that the shark is jumping out of the shadows.
I love it. Moonlit mudlarking. David, an older woman picks through the mud. Lost in her own world, she does not seem to focus on items of monetary value. What do we see her collect?
Yeah, she's like brushing aside things that others might at least investigate, like crates that are half submerged with like clinking bottles inside and things like that, and instead is just fishing through for like these small pieces of paper and parchment that she seems to recognize, but they're like torn. She keeps collecting them and like talking to herself and then like trying to put them together as if they might belong together. Something torn up. And yeah, she just keeps mumbling to herself like, my poor Eustace, my poor Eustace.
Miss Blakely. You see a young woman approaching you. She looks like Theodora, but as if Theodora was much, much younger. And she's dressed in piratical attire, She's wearing Theodora's sapphire around her neck, which is glittering wildly in the light. She's beautiful. And she says, Miss Blakely, I'm so happy you could make it.
I'm sorry. Do I know you?
Yes, of course, you know me. But turnabout is fair play, I suppose, Miss Blakely. You don't have to pretend to not know who I am. I am your own Theodora, of course.
Well, not to insult you, my lady, you certainly look different from how you looked last night.
She touches the gem at her throat and she says, I have discovered a very, very, let's just say, many have gone looking for the Fountain of Youth, and I may have found it. But you know something of eternal beauty, don't you?
I couldn't possibly know what you speak of. However, my lady, this is quite the party you have going here. I see you put some effort into this one, unlike the party last night, which you sprung upon us so impolitely.
Oh yes, that's right, the fashion show. Sorry about that. I hope you didn't have too much trouble afterwards.
Not at all. But I do have to ask, why is it you recommended that I not try on the outfit that Miss Beaumont was suggesting? You can tell that I do fit her styles very well.
Because Sylvia Belrose is an entirely unserious, pointless creature in the city of London. And if anyone had to die to make a point, it should be her, not you, my dear, fascinating Miss Blakely.
And what point were you trying to make? Just to ensure that the message has been delivered.
And she gets a small smile on her face. And she says, have you met Admiral Flagg?
Oh, the old man who said he captured you.
Yes, he did.
Yes, I did meet him.
And she says, I have a feeling you're going to get to know him very well.
Ugh. Well then, and what is the point of this party you're throwing? I can't imagine you're throwing it for just entertainment.
Reminiscing, Miss Blakely. I like to reminisce. And we cut over to Pope. Pope. You hear Obert say, so, how are we going to do this? Would you like me to end it quickly? Or would you like to suffer for a bit? Mock cares not. It's really just a matter of what you want.
What I want is you out of our way.
And how are you going to do that, sir?
I think Pope doesn't answer, but he's just kind of turning slowly, looking around, trying to identify if he can figure out where the voice is coming from.
You see that giant cleaver flying out of the darkness, down. You might just barely step out of the way as it slams into the concrete or the stone and sends sparks flying up. And he raises it again. What do you do?
Pope falls back on his rough and tumble upbringing and fights dirty, swings a fist, his left fist that is free, try and knock Obert back and incapacitate him, and then take a step back and give himself time to pull the weapon from inside his coat.
Night move. What are you afraid is going to happen if you fail?
He's too fast for me, and he's a more experienced fighter than I give him credit for.
And as before, you will end up in the trough. That's how it's worse. Mm-hmm. Do roll with vitality, please. And at disadvantage because of unnerved.
Oh boy. I rolled a 3, and a 2, and I have a +1 vitality, so that gives me a 6.
You see a gleam of metal as your head is removed from your shoulders and goes rolling onto the floor. It actually lands in the lap of the sacrificial figure on the altar before your body even hits the ground. But your body does hit the ground. You fall to your knees first, appropriate for a servant, and then slump forward and blood pours out of the wound from your neck. And Obert reaches down and takes your right hand and cleaves that in particular from you. Unless you're marking Janus Mask, of course.
I think I may have to, yes. I already owe you one.
Then you owe me two now.
Yeah.
She'll cut over back to Cremorne Gardens for a moment. Sure shot. After you find this pendant, what do you do?
I think that I head into the actual party area more. I think there was there was the bowling alley, and I think attached to that is like a saloon, and I'll head there.
It's all one thing. It's an American bowling saloon.
Yeah.
We'll come back to that in a moment. We'll do that at the end. Dr. Noble, you go inside and you see all these things that we've described here. What are you doing while you go in there? What are you looking for in particular?
Are there other people about?
Oh yeah, there's people looking at the exhibits and stuff, and oohing and awing.
Can I spot anyone that looks like he or she is the head of the exhibit, like running
sure,
it? Yeah. So I mean, she's just milling through the crowd and then looking through like the exhibits, trying to see if there's anything in particular that looks like what was depicted on the scrimshaw or hinted at, via the fin. And then
you find such a thing.
Okay.
One of the exhibits is a remarkably well-rendered humanoid fish man. The wax glistens as if the creature is truly wet. The eyes glow orange in a very, very impressive feat of special effects. And it's sort of just lurching. Not on a dais like the other displays, though. Just lurching. What do you do?
Of course, scientific curiosity determines that she has to take a closer look.
You approach and it looks up at you. Sure shot. You hear a scream coming from the Horrors of the Deep exhibit as you are crossing the way. What do you do?
I'll run towards it, gun drawn.
Moonlit mudlarking, our last journey. Rob, several bedraggled children poke a bloated corpse with sticks. Those who do not double over retching rifle through the waterlogged effects. What last traces of this person's life or death do they run off with?
We see the boys are attracted in particular by the fact that this corpse is dressed in unusual fashion in the remnants of a very fine silk patterned robe. And it's impossible to tell whether this person was young or old, but they were obviously from some far corner of the world, far from London. And, the boys pick out a couple of pieces of jewelry. They try and salvage some of the silk, but most of it is too damaged by the immersion in the water. But the last boy we see gets kind of a jeweled hair clasp, and it's the pattern on it is of the Chinese year of the pig, the design on it of that, and he takes that away with him, not knowing really what its significance is.
Very nice. Miss Blakely. Theodora, this young pirate Theodora, she bids you a good evening. And she goes to find Vice Admiral Flagg. Part of this little party is that they are going to reenact their legendary duel, in which they dueled each other to a draw. That is when Theodora, that story is how she earned the love of the British people, right? And particularly of young Victoria. What are you doing in the meantime?
I think I am looking around to see if anybody seems to be out of place. Anybody who seems to be there not for the party, but for nefarious music making fish monster reasons.
Do the information move with reason?
Not very reasonable. What? Blakely not reasonable? Shocking. Okay, that's a 5.
I think I think you slip and fall face first into a pile of mud.
Oh, that's embarrassing.
Unless you mark Jan's mask.
I'm so tempted. Because Blakely would hate that. I think I have to do it. Oh my gosh. Okay, I'm gonna mark. Oh goodness. Don't have a lot of options here.
Such a low price for a Janus mask mark, but I'm into it.
Listen, it is no, this is because Blakely would hate to fall in the mud in the middle of a party. Can I mark the Mask of Revelry?
Of course you can, yes.
Would everybody be okay if I did that to avoid getting splashed in the face with
I mean,
mud?
it is what it is. You don't need anyone's permission to do it. The Mask of Revelry says that each hunter must narrate a flashback to the last truly fun day they had, whenever that might be for old Hargrave House. But you otherwise come up with a clue, Miss Blakely. And the clue is this. There is a girl singing a song, the same song, or the same melody as the song that we have is sort of played prominent in this mystery. But it has words, but they're words of a tongue you don't recognize.
Girl, you, where did you learn this song?
And she looks up at you and she says, "Ma'am, I learned it at the bottom of the ocean." And we'll just cut there. Dr. Noble, the fish creature, leaps at you, accosts you. Everyone screams and is running, and it's just tearing at you. What do you do?
Whoa. Mm. Oh goodness. All the things to do. It's hitting me or clawing at me?
Clawing at you, yeah.
Oh goodness. Well, I mean, I suppose she's going to try to defend herself as best as possible. I mean, like, the only thing she has to hand is like her scalpel. Um,
Go for it. I mean, defend yourself. You can't kill the creature because you can't do that yet, but you can at least protect yourself.
Right. Do I roll for that? Is that
Night
like
move.
okay.
What do you afraid is going to happen if you fail?
It's going to injure me enough that I'm not going to survive, and it's going to get away. I mean, yeah.
It's worse than that. It's going to eviscerate you on the spot.
Great. Okay.
So roll with vitality. Actually, it would be sensitivity, but because you're Dr. Noble, and this could be a scientific thing, not a supernatural thing, it's going to be vitality.
Okay. And am I rolling okay, or
I don't know.
Music from
Most
the
beloved,
past?
music from the past, Angel of Limehouse. I'm going to say most beloved puts you at disadvantage because this is the only reason why this is happening. So
Right. Okay. Got it. No problem. Oh. 2 + 1 + 0 = 3.
Sure shot. You run into the tent as people are running out, just in time to see the creature split Dr. Noble straight up the middle. Dr. Noble's guts spill out all over the ground. And it's not eating the guts. It's looking for something. It's pawing through the guts, through the body, trying to find something desperately. Unless you're marking Janus Mask, Dr. Noble.
Oh, totally, Janus. Too much to do.
In which case, the complication is just going to simply be that Sure Shot has to actually save you right now. You're holding the creature off, but Sure Shot, describe what you do to chase the creature away.
I get in the room with my gun drawn, and I see Dr. Noble. I think it's like on her, and she's got her scalpel. She's trying to keep it back, and I shout, like, I think I shout Marissa, and I pull one of the small pistols that she trained with earlier out, and I like slide it towards her, and then I just start shooting at the creature.
Nice.
I feel like I probably made a bad call in spending our mask to avoid falling in the mud.
But you're good. You're good to go. The creature, you know, Marissa, you can open fire on it too. It just runs, like it
Okay.
just runs away out of this tent and it goes back to where it's from. Pope, you've marked the Janus mess, so instead you will defeat Obert, probably at a significant cost, but do describe what happens here.
Yeah, Obert winds up to swing again with this cleaver, and Pope brings up his left and punches him a couple of times hard in the kidneys, and backs away, trying to get this shotgun out of his coat. Obert recovers pretty quickly, and Pope tries to fire as he comes toward him, but his aim is not ready. Quite ready to get into the center mass. So what he ends up doing is hitting Obert's hand, and just the one holding the cleaver, and his hand is kind of just turned into a pulp, and the cleaver drops to the ground. Obert roars in pain and ducks his head down and just charges at Pope, almost headbutting him in the midriff and lifting him up. And they both tumble to the ground, and eventually they roll over in such a way that Pope is able to get his hand on the cleaver and just buries it in Obert's skull.
Very good.
But yeah, is injured, certainly in the process.
Well, I think what happens, in fact, is as you bury the blade into Obert's skull, bits of Obert's blood and brain matter spatter into your mouth. And given the nature of this place you're in, it's almost like a spiritual transference. I'm giving you the condition, a taste for it. But Obert is defeated. For good. Although Mock may not be. And that concludes the night phase. Let's go to the dawn. A threat is not yet resolved, but you are getting closer. Dawn questions. You all did answer a question. You answered 2 questions, in fact, but you get 1 XP for that, so everyone gets that first XP. Not yet. A threat is not yet resolved entirely, so we'll go to the next question. Sure shot, did you experience an echo in the night?
I think so.
Which one?
The digging through detritus on the beach.
Oh, yeah. Did you use violence to solve a problem? Yes. Did you encourage a fellow hunter to let loose for a change?
I don't know, like I'm pushing guns on everybody. So
yeah. I don't know if that particular angle of letting loose for a change came through so much. But I think the others are good. Pope, did you experience an echo in the night? Oh yeah, you did. The pig
symbolism. Yeah. Yes.
Very nice. Did you have a scene showing your secret private life in London?
I think the closest would be when I went to talk to Mr. Moore, but that's not really anything to do with. It revealed a little bit about his relationship with Vera.
Yeah, I think so. I'm into it. Yeah, I think so, because that was very because you were doing that just as a personal thing initially, right? Even though it did get wrapped up into a mystery, into a threat. Did you demonstrate obsequious behavior towards your employer in front of others?
The closest would be when he, moved the body into Dr. Noble's quarters rather than have her examine it in front of everyone else. So he took it out of everyone else's view.
Oh,
but
yeah, I like it.
Really
obsequious. I'm into it. Yeah, I'm into it. Yeah, you can take it. So you got 4 XP. Let's go to Dr. Noble. Dr. Noble, did you experience an echo tonight?
Muted. Not in like a specific tie-in, but I mean like with the whole spider web motif, trying to find patterns. Like the old woman at the shore, but this time with more of her flashback.
Oh,
spider web.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I'm
I mean, we don't have to. I mean, I'm just
I'm,
thinking
I'm trying to like,
because I'm trying to think.
I'm kind of like, I'm trying to just make the connection to the unseen. What was the connection to the unseen?
Yeah, I mean, it's very loosely tied. I mean, like, again, this woman that's like, searching for I guess, like, her own pattern in
Oh,
paper and parchment, and then like,
right. Yeah.
and then
Okay, yeah. It's kind of a thematic attachment. I'm into it.
okay.
Did you secretly engage in romantic or emotional behavior at odds with your aloof logical exterior?
I mean, again, when Pope was asking about the hair, I mean, she's
Oh, yeah.
definitely emotional.
Yeah, for sure. And did you have a conversation with a child while no one was looking?
Definitely. When she was getting ready for
Yeah.
coming to Cremorne, and then like, just like looking at the thread,
Mhm.
she's definitely telling the kid, yeah, soon, pretty soon.
Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead and mark those as well.
Okay.
Very good. Let's keep on going. Echo the Night, Miss Blakely.
There was a whole theme running through this entire session, ever since actually the spider silk seamstress was introduced, about how fashion and clothing and fabrics are important for how people appear. And there was definitely a part in the unseen that was more than one part in the unseen that was about that. And there was a lot of what Blakely was doing in the evening, trying to
I'm into it.
do that kind of thing. But I don't know if it was specific or if it was just sort of the overarching themes for the whole thing.
This whole session felt super thematically on point in that way.
Yeah.
Did you appear in London society wearing risque or avant-garde fashion? Yes, you did.
Come on, yeah.
Did you secretly show a vulnerable side to someone?
The idea was that Blakely, when she was talking to Miss Beaumont, was clearly very agitated by the idea that Dr. Noble is getting more attention than she is. But I don't know if that was secretly showing a vulnerable side.
Yeah,
That was pretty obvious.
And also, I don't think you were even being vulnerable. I felt like you were actually being kind of like more like almost like obstinate about it,
That's fair. Yep. Yeah, I don't think it came across super well. So we got more opportunity for that later.
Indeed. You can all choose different dawn questions as always if you wish, or you can leave them the same as you wish. Let's keep going. Playbook and custom moves. Nothing there except for the mother. You get your body part. What are you taking for the body this time, Dr. Noble? From the Resurrectionists. Speeding right up to the conclusion of that, by the way.
Yeah. Seems to be a theme of hands, so hands.
Yeah, I like hands. It's good. And let's go to Janus mask prompts. Also the hand memory as well can happen here. Am I owed any Janus mask? Oh, I am. Mask of Revelry. When's the last time your last truly fun day? Let's we can save this for next time since we're a little long on time, or we can keep going. I'm okay with keep going, so it's up to you all. Because we do have quite a few to get done.
Good.
All right. And in that case, let's begin.
If people want a few minutes to think about their Mask of Revelry, I can do my Mask of the Past that I owe. But it's up to you guys.
Go for it.
So I have to narrate a flashback to my young adulthood that shows the first time I met the artist who fell in love with me. This is actually kind of just directly digging off of Blakely's flashback to the time that she saw a flash of herself as an old woman. And now she's thinking about when she was growing up, and we see Blakely, and she is a young woman, probably 16, 17, maybe a little younger. And she is in what is clearly a children's home, like a foster orphanage kind of place. There's little kids running around, and she's looking at them kind of disgustedly. And an older lady walks into the room and claps. Children, we're going to have a guest today. This person is an artist. They're going to draw your pictures, and I want you all to be on your best behavior because this person is an heiress. Very, very important. Be very polite. Don't say anything bothersome. Make sure you bathe. And you, and she points at Miss Blakely, Jane, do not at all behave like you do sometimes to strangers. And Blakely just kind of, whatever. A few minutes later, they're all kind of being led into this parlor room. And there is a young woman, probably 25-ish, with a little canvas set up. And one by one, she does sketches of all the children. And when she gets to Blakely, she stops. And this woman is, kind of pretty, nothing like super remarkable, just a regular 25-year-old woman in London. And she's looking and staring at Blakely. Blakely says, well, are you going to get on with it, or do I have to paint my own picture? And this young woman kind of shakes herself out of her stupidity. I don't mean that in a bad way, but the word I'm trying to look for. Stupor, thank you. That's not the word, but a stupor is the word. And starts to do this picture and stops halfway and says, I don't know if I can finish this picture appropriately in this amount of time. May I come back later and ensure that I do it properly? And Blakely shrugs and says, oh, do what you will. Does not matter to me. And gets up and leaves the room. And that's it.
Thank you. Who would like to share some of their memories?
I'll go. This would be, oh my God, I owe like so much. Definitely for the flashback of a time where I experienced the first time Dr. Noble experienced love for the person she lost. And if I may, I was going to combine it with one of the with the Mask of Revelry. So as a young student, she was brought along and taught. No great effort was made by her parent, by her father, to let her study subjects that he thought were beyond her, but she made personal effort to do so. And there was a party at their house where different people from her father's work were invited and from the nearby university. And it was a memory game. And the people involved were in a circle, and each person had to add an object and then and the next person had to add an object to the memory game and then recite them with the beginning of, I love my love, with whatever the letter is, and then, say an object for that letter. And she remembers getting to the end of that game, having so much fun remembering and creating stories in her head of how to remember all these objects. And one young man who had silky, soft hair telling her at the end of the game, when she won, that she had a vigorous mind, and he admired her for it. And that was like one of the most fun days that she remembers ever having.
Good. Thank you. Who wants to go next?
I can, because it's real fast, because I don't want to get too descriptive about what Blakely gets up to for fun. We see Blakely's trying to shake her mind of all these bad memories that she's having. She's like, okay, no, we're going to think about something fun. We're going to think about something really good. And she thinks back to a day, and she's in her cathedral, and this is before Mock took one of the tiles from the ceiling, so she's not super worried about that. And she's sitting in a chair up on the altar, and she's just watching a bunch of ritualistic floggings happen around her in a circle, and hearing people cry out her name and look at her lovingly and worshipfully and thinking to herself about how good it feels to be that person in power and to have people willingly, happily suffer for you. And it was just a really lovely day.
She's quite evil. It's good. Who wants to go next?
Sure, I think Pope as he's lying on the floor of Obert's basement, recovering from this battle, thinks back to a time when he was a young-ish man, and he was at a fair just outside of London in a big field, and there is a boxing ring has been set up, and two fighters, as in the style of the time, ungloved, are going at each other, and Pope is on the sidelines taking bets from people. And he has a sheaf of pieces of paper in his hand with all of the bets that people are giving him, and a satchel with where he's putting the coins and the bills away. And I think at a certain point, one of the fighters appears to be taking the worst of it, and at a certain point, he's counting through these slips and looking at things, and he just turns and gives a small nod to the fighter who's taking the worst of it, and suddenly this person comes alive, and it becomes obvious that he and Pope are kind of in cahoots somehow in fixing this fight. And Pope just gives a little smile as the tables are turned.
Nice, thank you. Shurjat, do you have something?
Yeah, so I think sometime after the incident that Dr. Noble narrowly escaped from, he is sitting in the saloon where he meant to get to, and he's having drinks and remembering a time when he was here before, back when he worked here in the gardens, in the saloon, having drinks. And it got a little wild and it got a little raucous. And I think he taught everybody in the room some drinking song and kept it going for a while. And then he had to go do his set. And he was in rare form, flipping plates behind his back and drawing and shooting them before they could strike the ground, and then doing it with 2 plates. And then somebody in the crowd said something about how it was fake and he wasn't really any good. And so Sure Shot just gave him a little smile and drew another pistol that was already loaded and shot everyone in the crowd's hat off. And then he lost his job.
Very good, very good. Is there anything else for Janice Mask? Is that everyone?
I just want to.
I owe one.
Yeah, I will. One too.
Okay.
I still owe you 2, I think, but I might save it for next time.
You can save it for next time. It's fine. Yeah. I'll collect them eventually.
Right. I just want to get the hands one. It's going to be kind of short. So again, as Dr. Noble goes to affix these hands that she got from the resurrectionists to the child, she smiles to herself and then goes to her collection of the personal quarters, and then takes out the sonnet book and then riffles through it and remembers when a strong, firm, muscled fingers but gentle, were clasping the book and giving it to her in both hands, it's almost like a ceremony, and saying, I think that you, out of all, would appreciate this more than anyone. And then just remembering those hands opening the book, and then reading to herself a little bit aloud from the book, one of the sonnets to the child.
Very nice, very nice. Sure shot. You want to do yours? You want to save it?
It's short, and it's the moss-covered gate. So I think that Sure Shot's sitting in the saloon now and has a letter that's crumpled up in front of him. It's talking about how there's nothing that he could do that his old mom couldn't forgive, that he really should come back, and that dreadful man had come by again. And she had mentioned something about London. And he has just crumpled it up and put it in front of him. He really has no intention of returning home. It is distressing news from America.
But home might come for you. Because the Pinkerton is now in play. You have 4 threats in play now. I'll introduce that next time. Let's go ahead and go to stars and wishes. Stars, of course, things we enjoyed. Wishes, things we hope to see next time. I'll start and say that I thought this was a great session. It was really a really thematically interesting session. I feel like there was lots of big themes that were just running through the whole thing, and it was really fun. And some of it was like clearly intentional, but some of it was just sort of ambient, and I was really here for that. I like that we had so much like I like that we got to see some like deaths of characters. Some violent deaths of characters is always fun. I always like Obert in the basement. That's always great fun. Those were just some things that stuck out to me.
I have a few stars. I love that Sure Shot's kind of like everybody's bodyguard right now, just like the muscle of the house. It's so good. It's so much fun. I loved the Dr. Noble versus the fish creature, the whole thing. Everything about that was just great. But I think the big highlight for me was when Pope was kicking over its ass. That was just amazing. It was so much fun. My wish is still kind of the same. I wish to see what's going to happen with the Pinkertons, because that's not something I've seen before, and I'm excited for that. I also want Blakely and Pope to have some sort of interaction. It still
I was going to say the same, yeah.
Yeah, you all just keep like keep separating. Yeah. Any other stars or wishes?
I really enjoyed everyone's flashbacks. That was fun hearing some of those kind of hints at the what's going on behind the facade of the characters.
Yeah, I feel like we get just that little bit of extra on the characters. It's great.
And yeah, it was fun being able to kind of take that revenge on Obert after last time. That was kind of a highlight. That felt like a really cohesive session. Generally, just everything kind of came together really well, and everything kind of fed into everything else in an effective way. It flowed really, really nicely.
I'll just start for the theorizing. I thought that was great. Answering the questions was really, really fun. It's a fun process. I also enjoyed everyone's flashbacks as well, and learning more about the characters. I will do a special star though for Mads and Dr. Noble, because I just like that emotional story that's being told there. It's so like gentle and subtle and romantic, and I'm really into it. So.
Stars for everyone, because whenever we come up with, like, whether it be the unseen, whether it be the flashback, or even just like, scenes with each other, I mean, it's like everybody does a really good job about playing off of things. And I know part of the mechanic of the game is to be able to do like Echo of the Night, or just like try to run on, well, what has happened before, or what can we bring in from what we've heard before. And it's just done so well. And your pacing is great, whether it be by the regular mechanics of the play structure, or because of you creating this, Jason. I mean, this has been like, it's been a great cinematic experience in role play, because of the back and forth. It's like, okay, cut to that, all right, go. Love it.
Yeah, I think stars for me, the big star for me was the theorize. That's just really fun. It's really great to like finally have the clues where you want to step back and talk about it. And we got to do that a couple of times. That was great. That feels like, it's like mid-season finale kind of stuff when you get to theorize. So that's really fun. I thought it was real cool that Pope went off kind of on his own to try and make this happen, and did in fact make it happen. That was pretty exciting.
As is frequently the case, the factotum is the character that like accomplishes goals, right? Like the factotum is in there like doing the stuff, and that's how I designed it that way. But like it's fun to see. Like it's fun to see like that sort of, this sort of like how the factotum becomes like such a heroic character in the story, right? Like a very like heroic protagonist, which I think is great.
I feel like the undeniable tends to be a little bit more on the I'm causing problems for everyone side of things. So,
yeah, you're definitely on the
but,
that part of the ledger for sure.
Stars for everyone being cool with Blakely, or me, because Blakely is Blakely, choosing to use a mask so that she doesn't get mud on her face. And then immediately the next scene, Dr. Noble gets eviscerated by a fish person. So I was just like, yeah, that checks out. So stars for everybody. It's great.
Yeah, I enjoyed that too. I thought that was great. I'm just glad that happened. I was like, because when I made that the outcome, I was like, it's an appropriate outcome for a miss on an information move. Not too deadly, not too dangerous, and yet I know Miss Blakely will not like this. It will be a thing that will not stand. So yeah. My wish, I was about to say I'm curious, like, if which threats are coming up, but we now know which threat is coming up. It's going to be the Pinkertons. So I'm curious to see how that goes. It's such a different type of investigation. It's so different from everything you've been doing. And so I'm just really fun to see how that plays out. Any other wishes or stars?
I don't know if it's a wish or a star or what, but I mean, it's like, just can't wait to see. I mean, as we go through this game, and I mean, I know Amanda's familiar with this more, and David for sure, as well. But I mean, just being able to see how we manage like all these threats coming on top of each other, and like not let anything just go by the wayside, because we already know what happens when we just like kind of let that slip. Whoops. Okay. So excited for everything. It's great.
Well, eventually you're gonna have to face Theodora, right? So that'll be the fun part. Oh, my other star, which is a star for just me, I guess, but like I love being able to introduce Admiral Flag so early. Admiral Flag is the next mastermind, and you don't have to face him yet because he's not the mastermind yet, but he will be someday.
Yeah, so. I thought that's hilarious that his house is next door to Hargrave.
He lives literally next door to Hargrave House. That's
great. Of course he becomes a mastermind threat. He lives next door to Hargrave House. Imagine having them as neighbors. No, I'd become a mastermind threat too.
Yeah.
Or I mean, like, conceivably he could be, the jovial kind of pottering around type of dude, like, he's done it all, seen it all, but then like he's starting to go a little bit, so therefore he's just like noticing stuff and like, yeah, that happened in blah, and then goes on to a long story. So he could be that too. We don't know.
He is in fact a madman in the vein of Lovecraft, and he intends to destroy London. But you don't know that yet. He's a fun character though to play. But I'm kind of happy that that's on the table, even though it's not something we'll see for a while. But any other stars or wishes before we go?
Oh, you named our group. You named our crew. What's the?
Oh yeah.
What's the
Shadow Society? So it does. If I'm being perfectly honest, it has no real meaning. I just thought it sounded cool, so that's what I called it.
What was it called?
It's this playlist is going to be called Shadow Society.
I love it.
Yeah.
Spooky.
So yeah, some alliteration. That was good. I just need a way to distinguish these playthroughs from the others on the channel. So awesome. Okay, well, I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording.